And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Attention, a roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern Time. Of course, the finest Unfiltered. It's your Friday roundtable. The content in NYPD, New York City, just keeps continuing. Good morning, John. Good morning, Marlon. So we're going to jump into it. We're going to talk about two detectives that have been modified after a Brooklyn liquor store incident. It's went viral. I've been out in the West Coast myself for a while. Been traveling around since retirement, almost 4 years now. But even on the West Coast, this video has went viral. A lot of people talking about it, ask me questions about it. So it's one of those things where I don't think we should break down any incident frame by frame, but we have to understand cops are human. They make mistakes. The question is, and Ron Layson says it often, I have to give him credit to this, is it a mistake of the heart or a mistake of the mind? But also when it comes to using force and resisting, I think it's important to understand that there are tactics that are purposeful, that have a mission behind it, that are ugly looking, but then there's also use of force tactics that are ugly looking, but they don't really have a mission or purpose. So what I mean by that is, for instance, I know with one of the detectives who kicks the perpetrator that's resisting. Keep in mind, the perpetrator was resisting. One of the detectives makes like a little kick. Looks like an old mobster trying to kick someone. And some tactics have purpose behind it and meaningful and our mission. But some you can tell is when emotion gets behind it. And we have to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes we have to give cops a little leg room. I don't think every incident should be termination, but there has to be, what are the mitigating factors, right? I'm not saying it's right to throw a kick like that, but what led up to that? And cops are human, and sometimes they get emotionally invested. We have to do our best not to. But I just want to say, rhetorically speaking, let's say that cop was spit in the face, and you can understand. I'm not saying it's right, but you can understand why the cop loses it and gets emotionally invested. And that's what people don't understand. Sometimes using force, yes, cops have to emotionally detach themselves and be purposeful, but they are human. And sometimes people, perpetrators, do things to cops that drive emotion, like being spit on or being bit, certain things like that. Again, I'm not excusing the tactics, but we have to put our minds and say we can understand it. And that's why I think it's so quick. People jump to, terminate these cops and fire them. And you have to ask yourself, if you're an active cop or retired, you understand you've been in these situations. But if you were never a cop, just imagine someone bites you, someone spits at you, someone is resisting arrest and it's violent. You're at a store and there's people outside. It gets chaotic. How would you feel? Would that drive up your adrenaline? You may lose yourself. So yes, we have to do our best not to, but at the same time, we have to understand the position also. Good morning, guys. John, let's jump into it. I think it's a lot. This will be a long show, obviously, but let's be honest with this and give a fair assessment.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a lot of people comment on things that they don't even understand what they're looking at, and what they're outraged about isn't what they need to be outraged about. And, I already see the comments in the chat already about what Sal said. Look, Sal wouldn't even have showed up at that job, so I don't really care what Sal has to say about it. But like we're going to get into the entire thing that happened inside of the liquor store in Brooklyn in the 7-6 precinct, where two detectives stopped the wrong man. And, cops are today like you're guilty. You're guilty until proven innocent. In America, we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Perpetrators are innocent until proven guilty. Cops aren't. Cops aren't afforded that due process. You saw the mayor, the police commissioner, the public safety chair, the chair of New York City Council. They all came out and condemned these officers without even knowing what happened. And the thing that bothers me the most is we learned that the individual that they stopped turned out to not be the suspect, the drug suspect, later on, after they already condemned him. They already condemned the cop thinking that this guy bought drugs and that he ran and fled from the police and was fighting with the police. And they were condemning the cops for their use of force. you know, and the terminology was, it doesn't look good. I don't like it. It doesn't look good. And, you know, that's not how you judge use of force situations on how it looks. If you judge use of force situations on whether it looks good or doesn't look good, cops are guilty all the time. Every cop will get arrested, every scenario, every fight. And just one more point on Sal is, like, let's not forget that just 2 weeks ago, there was an EDP trying to bite a cop, and a cop threw 4 closed fist strikes to the EDP's ribs to stop him from biting his leg. And Sal wanted that cop fired. And that was the only reason Sal didn't make a comment on that video, is because he doesn't know what he's looking at. And he can't break it down for you and give you the exact scenario. He has to have his lawyer draw up the narrative and the blueprint. He goes between his lawyer and Joel Ramirez, and they give him all his narrative and all his production, because none of those are his original thoughts. And anyone who watches this show knows that. I tried to watch it. I couldn't watch it because he was making claims that weren't there. You know, we'll get into that. And I'm specifically talking about the head stomp. He says that the officer head stomps the individual, the civilian, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm going, I don't know that was a head stop. I hear his partner yell, give me your hands. And I see the detective stomp. And was that a stomp on his hand? What's wrong with that? If he was trying to get his hands. Again, these cops think that this individual is the suspect that's under arrest. That's what they think. You know, the overall attack plan of narco should be ripped apart. This was incompetent police work. And I don't even put it on the fault of the detectives. I put it on the fault of Chief Levon Holly. I put it on the fault of their sergeant, their lieutenant, whoever's running narco. What are you guys doing? You know, you saw they had no radios on them. They were all running out there using WhatsApp as a communication. So they're cut off from communication, which sends them after the wrong guy. They're fighting with an individual that they can't get up. They can't get back up there because they're cut off from communication. This was all the result and failure of NYPD leadership. When we talk use of force, I mean, we'll go through the entire video. The only dumb thing that I see, unless someone shows me that head stomp, and I don't think he did, because both the videos, there's another angle that will show you too, and it starts after that. So I don't think, and yet everyone's saying they got head stomp. So how come that wasn't on video? You were filming it. I could see you filming it. And I could see you filming it from the other angle. Why can't we get the whole video from that angle? And why can't we get how it started? You know, so I mean, that's the thing. Everyone's rushing to judgment based upon this video. And again, this was the same reaction that Sal was looking for with that cop who threw 4 rib strikes to an EDP who was attempting to bite his leg, saying, oh, he was just biting his pants. You know, so we'll get into this entire use of force, but I'm sitting there and I'm going to say, yes, the situation was a failure. NYPD leadership failed these 2 detectives, and they made this situation dangerous, not only for those detectives, but for that man. I don't know what that man perceived. I'm not okaying saying, yeah, cops should be able to run up to you and beat you up and do all this stuff. I'm not saying that at all. But, you know, I made a lot of posts about what happens when the cops stop you. And the last thing you should do is start fighting. That's the last thing you should do, is start physically resisting. You know what I mean? Whether you're innocent or not, deal with it in court. And I think that's where it goes wrong on the individual's part. I think he escalated that situation. He brought it to make it physical. And that's something that no one's looking at. And again, they were condemning these cops before they even knew he was the wrong guy. So it just shows you how misplaced all of this is. And, you know, and for the other thing, people are saying he didn't know they were cops. I mean, come on, man. It was clear as day that they were cops. The guy's wearing an NYPD vest. He's in a store. There's a ton of people around there. Even the store owner was trying to get the guy to comply. Even the store owner. Morning.
Yo, morning, guys. Morning, chat. Yeah, where did this week go, right? Yeah, so there's a lot to go on this issue, you know. And John is right that the job is you know, the job failed these cops, you know, on many levels, because, you know, we've been talking for a while about, certainly in the case of the diaphragm law and the difficulties in arresting someone with the diaphragm law now in place. And again, once again, it plays a part in this discussion as well. So for those of you who think this, who are upset about this whole incident, right? Are you also upset at the fact that these cops are inhibited by the diaphragm law? No, you're not. You're probably not. You know, the same people who pushed the diaphragm law, right, are the same people now upset at its byproducts. You know, the same perpetually outraged people, right, are the same people who are now outraged because an arrest now looks ugly, and all arrests look ugly now in New York City, because now these arrests, you need a squad of cops to arrest one guy. Okay, that didn't that was that didn't, for the most part, that was never the case before, because again, you could use force on the force of your weight on their upper torso as a multiplier, and you could no longer do that. Okay, so again, if you're upset at this incident and you think it looks ugly, you push the diaphragm law, well, you need to look in the mirror and see what you caused. Okay, you know, that you help push, you help get us to this situation that we're in right now. And John is also right that there's been like a ton of like horrible takes on this incident. Horrible takes. Okay, I also watched Sal's show yesterday, and you know, I give credit to Jack, because Jack, for somebody who's never been a cop, there was some great insightful comments from Jack. Okay, but I mean, I rarely heard on there, you know, talk of, you know, you don't have the right to resist arrest. Okay, you do not have the right to resist arrest. Okay, even if the arrest turns out to be invalid that later on, you still don't have the right to resist arrest at the moment. Okay, and again, we're going to go through all of this, and it's going to be, I think that the chat is going to be very spicy, and you know, I can only assume that we're going to be invaded once again by leftists who hate the fact that we're pointing out how they're wrong, and so brace yourselves, guys, those of you who are in the chat right now.
Well, first, excuse me. First of all, I want to make it known that Sal Greco and Jack and Eric Sanders are not affiliated with this network. All right. So no longer, I know some people just don't even know that we parted ways, but Sal and Jack and Eric, first of all, Eric Sanders was never part of this network. Jack was a flunky producer, and Sal, we all parted ways. Apparently, Sal and Jack just went completely radical. So, excuse me. But Sal and Jack went completely radical, and that's not the path that we're going on. So the bottom line is they're not a part of this network, and I think that we're giving him way too much credit, and that his opinion even matters, because it doesn't matter when it comes to use of force, because he's been all over the place when it comes to use of force. In one case, a cop has no reason to deploy strikes when being bit to the leg, or the perp is trying to bite the leg. And then we have another take where Sal says that a perpetrator with a firearm being cuffed could be deadly. So that's why I said initially, I said on a prior episode, that his opinion on use of force when it came to a cop deploying strikes to a cuffed perpetrator that's trying to bite him, he boxed himself in and said that a cop cannot use force when someone's in cuffs. So he boxed himself in. So honestly, his opinion on use of force is just complete hot air to me. And Jack, he may show some common sense, but his opinion doesn't matter either, because he's never been in a use of force situation as a cop or in life. So let's be honest with that. Anyway, I'm not showing any hate, but the bottom line is that's the reality. Now, when we talk about this incident, the reason why, I don't know what's in these cops' heads, but I can tell you this. I think when you have a bad plan, which is what they had, one, they didn't have communication. You can see that the supervisors aren't on scene. So there's no control there. There's no discipline, and there's no plan, which leads to cops being emotionally invested when things go south. That's why, in my opinion, I don't know, but I think why things went south, because they had zero plan. The tactics were terrible, not just as far as the use of force, but the tactics as a team, not using radios, not having the proper communication, just using WhatsApp, trying to stay off the grid. I understand why they want to do it. I understand why they want to be kind of incognito and work just together. But at the same token, it's not proper radio discipline. It doesn't work. And that's a failure on the leadership there. That's a lack of leadership where the cops are just on their own and there's no control. Believe it or not, cops and detectives, they actually want structure. And when there's no structure, that's when people start to get emotionally invested, which is why I think when things went south and the perpetrator is resisting, the fact that they don't have radios and there's no communication and there's a lot of people outside. You can see there was a lot of people out that store creating a chaotic scene, which is why they would get emotionally invested because they're out of control at that point. They lost control, which is why I believe they deployed stupid strikes. Do I believe he stomped on his head? I don't know. It doesn't look like it to me. If he stomped on his hand, if he was trying to grab something, a knife or potential firearm, or thought that, I can understand it. Now, the bottom line is Molly made a fantastic point. It doesn't matter. If the arrest was met by probable cause or not, that's the purpose of court. Citizens do not have a right to resist arrest. You have a right to due process. You have a right to your day in court. So you're supposed to comply. And there's no doubt about it, even though these detectives didn't have too much control because they didn't have radios, there wasn't good tactics, and the use of force showed it was emotionally driven, that perpetrator still still resisted. Now, does it matter that he wasn't the perpetrator? No. That's why even on a stop report or years ago when it was called a UF 250, there was actually a caption of using your baton or using your mace and not making arrests, because sometimes you can have a level 3 encounter with a potential subject, a person of interest, and that subject resists. And it happens quite often. And that stop report leads to an arrest, even though that person did not commit the initial crime. Now, I do believe that when you're prepared, it leads to good tactics. And the fact that they're unprepared and not having a radio leads to bad tactics and also bad use of force tactics. And you can see the look on their faces. I watch it. I broke it down. And you can see the look on their faces of distress because they have a perpetrator resisting. You see the detective at the door. There's plenty of people outside. There's no radio communication at this point. So they don't know when the cops are coming in. They don't know who they have that door closed. They're trying to contain the perpetrator. And also, let's be honest, cops are not training. They're not training. First of all, even if you're trying to stomp if you were trying to stomp the head or deploy a kick in that matter, it's not effective. It's just going to hurt someone, but it's not going to stop them either. And that goes back to city council implementing that diaphragm law. And I said this a long time, because cops are aware, they're very conscious of the diaphragm law. They use other tactics which are much more brutal, which are strikes, right? Watch the other detective deploying those right-hand haymakers. Now, I personally don't believe those type of punches actually work. And so I think cops need more training. Short, straight punches are just as effective or maybe even more and appear better on camera. Now, some people say, John was talking about it doesn't look good. Use of force will never look good. It's not a pretty thing, and you can't wrap these things with a bow. The bottom line is we have to assess it based on what happened, and the use of force has to be mission-based and purposeful and not based on emotion. John, what are your thoughts, man? We got to keep jumping into this.
So, a lot of people on here are saying already, like, oh, well, it was the wrong guy. And I totally agree with you. Listen, the dude was in a liquor store. He gets ran up on by 2 cops screaming, cop, cop, cop. And he makes a really bad decision. But why did those cops run up on him wrongly? Their leadership failed them. Not only were they modified, their sergeant was also modified, which I think is laughable, because I personally don't think this WhatsApp communication idea stopped with the sergeant. I think that everyone in that unit knew exactly what they were doing. I think they were doing it for a while. I think this is a huge failure on the all leadership. My personal opinion, the first thing I would do is wipe out all of the leadership of narcotics. And this is what let's go back a little bit to Levon Holly. This is what we talked about when we said you're putting people in charge of things that they never did, so they don't understand, right? And so did New York City fail that man that day? Absolutely. Should New York City be liable for the injuries to that man? Absolutely. Should these cops go to jail because they followed their leadership blindly and went out and did this job? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They were told that this was the individual. They were cut off from communication. And I personally think when I watch this, you see both cops experiencing a form of panic attacks. You definitely see it from the big guy. You see the post-traumatic stress all over them. You see him starting to break down out of character. He was failed by his leadership. Now, when we talk about the closed fist strikes, I heard, and Mon, just for the record, I did not watch Sal's show. I went on there and I commented twice. I just asked when Hawk Newsome is going to come on to do a review of Police Body Camera, and as if this is now the show that is the New York Greater BLM chapter, because that's what it appears to be to me. There is total narrative pushing on the part of anti-cop, and the cops are bad, and they do this, and everybody should be fired. And I wonder who's trying to get the case anyway. I wonder. I could only imagine. Could we think? Do we think for a second? So there's a lot of narrative peddling going on there. But so the one part that I did hear is him say that you're not trained to throw strikes. I was in the academy. We boxed in the academy. We threw strikes to resisting perpetrators, to their ribs, to their back, to their front, to their face, to their head. We've tried not to punch to the head because you'll break your hand, right? You don't want to break your hand. But we threw strikes for compliance, absolutely. And especially we threw strikes in this position as well, while a person was down, to try to get compliance too. I was trained to throw strikes. So closed fist strike is a trained tactic in the NYPD. So these two detectives, they have hundreds of collars each, both of them. One came on in 2012. The other one came on in 2014. They have hundreds of arrests. I think they each have over 300 arrests each. That is more, one of them. They each have more arrests per one of them than the entire upper echelon of the NYPD combined. So they have more experience in the field, out and work, than the people that are in charge of them. And that's important because it puts people in failed situations. The leadership is failing these guys that have more experience to them. So they're in this position. They grabbed the wrong guy. It's an accident. It happens. We do it all the time. I'm sorry. It just is. Should it be better? Absolutely. Should we train better? Absolutely. Does that mean 2 cops should get fired over it? Absolutely not. We do, just for those of you that don't know, we probably hit 1 or 2 wrong doors a year, meaning we do search warrants on people's houses and it's the wrong address. Think about that. You're sleeping. You're a gun owner. Boom, cops kick your door and police. Thankfully, we haven't had one of those situations go bad recently. Thankfully. But they've been bad before, where the guy did absolutely nothing wrong. He thinks he's defending his family, and next thing, he's shot and killed by the police. And who's to blame? The cops think that they think they're going in the right house, and they think they're going for an armed perpetrator, and this guy thinks he's defending his family. Who's to blame? I don't know. Cooler heads prevail in these situations. Cooler heads prevail. So I personally, I heard that the sergeant was modified, and my first words were good. Who else is getting modified? Who's getting transferred out of this unit? Why is the leadership of narcotics still in charge of this unit? I watched 2 detectives have to fight with someone in a store, the guy possibly bleeding out on the ground from the injuries he sustained. And by the way, they threw 7 strikes. 7 strikes combined. Seven closed fist strikes, excuse me. There was a slight kick to the ass at the end. I won't lie about that. It wasn't an injury. It's not an assault. It was dumb, but it was frustrated. The guy's in the middle of having this drama-filled panic attack. He throws a slight kick to the ass. And again, the stomp, to me, looks like he tries to stomp the guy's hand. And we're going to break this video down. We're going to slow it down. We're going to show you all that. But the one thing that stood out to me is 57 times, these detectives yell some form of stop resisting, give me your hands, roll to your side, stop, I'm trying to help you. 57 times they're telling this individual that. The store owner knows the guy and is telling them to calm down. Even the ladies that are exaggerating the situation at some point are telling him to calm down. And he's not. And look, I don't know what he was feeling. I don't know what he perceived, but the bottom line is what would a rational person perceive in that moment, in that time? I don't know if that guy was drinking before that and he was going back for his second bottle. We don't know any of this, dude. We don't know what he perceived. We don't know his mind state the same way you don't know those cops' mind states, right? They're walking in there. They think they got a perpetrator. Next thing they know, the guy's getting physical and won't comply. They don't know that he's not going for a gun. He's not making a move. And by the way, when the last 2 strikes that the guy on the floor throws, he throws, and you could see they're defensive strikes because he sees the guy reach towards the bottles that start breaking. So he gets nervous and he strikes him 2 more times. You know, so I have zero issue with any of the closed fist strikes at all. If you have an issue with that, then we really have to have a conversation about should we even have police in New York City? Because there was zero wrong with that. The kick in the ass, it was stupid. Is it a crime? Absolutely not. It was dumb. It looked stupid. The stomp on the hand, I'm all for it. Stomp on the head, you're an idiot. You know, I don't know what to tell you. You know, but to me, it doesn't look like a stomp in the head. It looks like a stomp on the hand. You know, let me know, when you guys want. I'll play the video in whole, and then we'll start to break it down.
Yeah, a lot to talk about there. I saw a couple quick comments in the chat there from Lambro. Lambro is kind of losing his mind in that chat. Lambro, slow down, bro. Okay, right. But yeah, Lambro brings up the WhatsApp. Okay, about the WhatsApp, it's stupid. They shouldn't have the WhatsApp. They shouldn't be using WhatsApp to communicate. But like we've talked about before, their upper echelon was using WhatsApp just a couple months ago. They would rather Signal to communicate between each other. Okay. Now the thing is, in the past, we used to use text message to communicate with each other. Okay. You need a way if you have an entire team out there and you're on an operation out there, you need a way to communicate with everybody at the same time. Okay. And you can go on attack channels on the radio, but sometimes that, it just doesn't work. Sometimes you only have one radio too, you don't have enough radios to so that everybody could be monitoring like the TAC and the regular channel. Sometimes you have guys out there by themselves who are shall I say, following either the UC, the undercover, or the CI, and they're not going to be picking up their radio. If you're ghosting a CI or a UC, and the boss wants to communicate something to you, you are the best way to communicate that is via text message. You're not going to pick up your radio, pull out your radio when you're supposed to be discreet. Okay. But using WhatsApp is stupid, and it's stupid on their part to use it, considering the climate that we're in. But using WhatsApp is not an indication that there's some sort of a conspiracy to arrest an innocent man, Lambro. So you need to understand that, okay? It's funny that a lot of the times we point out things that can go wrong in the long term for the job, and then people call us conspiracists on it. But yet, here we are finding every little detail in here that again is stupid, but it's not an indication of some conspiracy to arrest an innocent man. Yeah, and I saw another comment from Lambro here, which says that the 2 cops beat up an innocent man. Again, we want to point out that the arrest is valid. If the officer has probable cause at the time of the arrest is valid. Okay. Now later on, that PC may be proven to be false, or circumstances changed. Find me a cop who's never stopped the wrong guy. Okay, find me that cop. If you could find somebody, if you know somebody who says they've never stopped the wrong guy, then that person isn't really a good cop. Okay, because it happens. It happens. Sometimes you're looking for a suspect who matches the same description. I remember I stopped a construction worker who who matched the same description of a robbery suspect. Okay. The guy was pissed off. Yeah. And I had to add Central repeat the description for him. Okay. But it happens. It happens. You know, I once chased a car and like the guys bailed on me. Luckily, 8-1 crime was there to stop them. But one of the other people I stopped was the wrong guy. And an 8-1 crime waved. They told me they waved him off. They told me, nah, he's not one of them. You know, the car ran the wrong way. So it's a long story. I think I mentioned it here before. But it happens. Okay, it happens. What's the problem here is when the people who get stopped by police escalate the situation and make things worse. Okay, this guy was brought back, and he was that, you know, after a further investigation, they figured out, hey, he's not the guy. Okay, yes, that would have happened regardless. Okay, and if he hadn't escalated the situation, okay, this would have been, you know, this idea, I'm sure, would have been a lot faster. Things would have gone a lot faster, and he would never have been injured. Okay, there is a system in place. You may not want to believe it, but there's a system in place that is more on the civilian side than the cops. Okay, remember, we have to prove that you did that crime. Okay, the burden of proof is on us. Okay, it's not on you to prove your innocence. Okay, so.
Well, I think it's a good point, but to go even further, we don't have to prove you committed the crime. We just need probable cause, because proof is a far different burden in the court system, right? We just need probable cause. And probable cause, what probable cause ultimately means is just it's reason to believe someone committed the crime. That's all it is. Reason to believe you committed the crime, which is why cops do often stop the wrong people, because that's the burden just to make an arrest. Just reasonably believe you committed the crime. That's all. By the way, good morning, everybody. The lefties are here. Joe6899 says all cops are bastards. Joe, I think you should change your number. It should be Joe14. I believe you said you had 14% body fat. So when you get a chance, I think you should change to Joe14. But yeah, and Smith, you're right, brother. Sal and I call him Justice Jack are still talking about the radios. Now listen, I get it. I think that prior planning prevents piss poor performance, and the tactics as a whole were bad, which is why it led up to what, in my opinion, and John, you said the same thing as I was saying. You can see the stress and the breakdown in their faces because it was a complete mess, because they didn't have proper communication. The most important thing in police, and we often talk about this, is your radio. Your communication is probably the most important tool. The most important tool to be effective in policing. They have a large crowd outside. It's getting pretty chaotic. They have a perpetrator, and I say perpetrator even though he didn't commit a crime prior to that. He's resisting arrest. And as far as I'm concerned, or as to my knowledge, resisting arrest is still a crime. So if you resist arrest, that is a crime. If you're the wrong person, but you resist, and it's still a crime. Now, Molly bring up a great point. I remember, particularly myself, I never forget, we actually laughed about it, and this subject that I had even laughed about it one time, because these things happen. I was working on the Lower East Side, and I used to hide behind trees and do all kinds of funky stuff. I would sit at bus stops and working in plain clothes. But we had a stranger rape. These things don't happen often, but sometimes that would happen in the Lower East Side. A woman was raped by a stranger, and we had a full sketch of this perpetrator. And we had a drawn out sketch. We had a potential picture of the perpetrator. We all want to get a rapist, right? So I saw this guy. He looked exactly like the sketch, and I was sure. And I was hiding. I remember I was hiding by a building, and he made eye contact with me, this subject, and he gave me that look like, oh man, this is the guy. So I remember I charged at him. My theory was I would always act first before. It's always better to act than react. So I saw his look, and I ran towards him, and I tackled him, and I put him in handcuffs. And I said, we got him. I told one of my guys, we got him. Well, it turns out it wasn't a guy. He looked exactly like him. And I think when we got the picture and showing the picture, even he was shocked. Like, wow, he looked exactly like him. And we ended up laughing about it. So that was a success story. But if he would have resisted or tried to arrest me, I would be permitted to use force. And it would be allotted. Now, here's what I have an issue with. I have an issue. If you try to stomp on someone's head, that's a problem. There's no purpose behind that. There's no mission. You're only going to cause injury. But I don't believe that he stomped on his head either. You see the position of where the body is and where his foot goes. I don't believe it's at the head. Either way, I have an issue with the type of force that they're using because it's not proper training. Now, the reason why cops, in my opinion, get tired, for one, is stress. Their adrenaline levels spike at a rate that most people don't. They're adrenaline because they have so much going on. It's chaotic. It's not just a fist fight. The people have to understand when a cop is engaged in battle, and I say battle with hands-on physical confrontation, it's not just that physical confrontation. It's their environment. They still have to worry about their surroundings. They have to be cognizant of their firearm, cognizant of their of their partner, cognizant of their radio, cognizant of the people that are in around them, what's happening, keep everyone informed. At the same time, why deploying strikes? What I have a problem is the reason why cops get tired is because efficiency and proper use of force, you would be less tired. And the cops throw in some haymakers, and I don't think those things are effective. If you do just some short strikes, straight strikes, it's much more proper. It's less use on the body, less muscle. You're getting less tired, and it's more effective. So it's unfortunate. We need more training. We need better training, more training to train often. And with that, when the plan goes south, and the plan was south from the beginning, and it's not, I'm sure this is not just on this particular day. I'm sure it's quite often, or probably every time that they go out, that they're not using radios. And they got comfortable with it, and I do believe it's a sense of arrogance. And it's a failure on the leadership. And one thing you pointed out, John, is spot on. There's no way that these guys are going out and it's just a sergeant. And everyone in Narco is a small family. Even the captain's very involved. Everyone there knows, and everyone's in on it as far as not utilizing radios. Zero discipline. The leadership should be moved right away, and it needs a complete overhaul. And that's why it leads to a disaster. So the use of force itself is not just a one-dimensional. We have to look at everything that surrounds it. Now, no matter what, even though the cops made mistakes, the person, the subject, did resist arrest, and resisting arrest is a crime.
See, I'll be honest. I really don't. I think that they were set up for a mistake. I don't really see much mistake in the training. Like I don't see what they did wrong. I don't see what their options were. I mean, look, are they professional fighters? No, they're not, and that went on for 7 minutes, 42 seconds. 7 minutes, 42 seconds. The whole neighborhood's trying to get in the store. You got people in the store yelling at you. You got this guy fighting with you, won't put his hands behind his back. They can't get his hands behind his back. He's bleeding from his leg. Thank God the wound was like superficial. It looked worse than it really was. They think he's bleeding out. Anyone in that situation, I don't care what your training is, unless you're like a stone cold murderer, your adrenaline's flowing, you're gonna be huffing and puffing. I know some people, I know another show that, the New York BLM chapter thinks that you don't need to do the 1.5 mile run because that's why they were they were huffing and puffing. And it's like, dude, you could be an elite athlete in that situation. Your adrenaline flowing for that long, 7 minutes in a fight, 7 minutes when you're trying to ascertain about 1,000 data points to keep you and your partner safe, and you can't get help there on the scene. You can't get help for the perp. You can't get help to help you with the perp. You can't get the scene secure. You're going to panic, dude. You are going to panic. And if you don't, you're a stone cold killer. You're a stone cold killer. You should be doing hits. They should be sending you to Iran right now because, like I don't know many people like that, but and the people I do know like that, honestly, the one thing I know about them, they don't resist arrest. That's the one thing I know about them. They don't resist.
What's the name of that chapter, John? What's the name of that chapter?
The greater New York BLM chapter, But yeah, I really blame the leadership, dude. Like, there's no way you're doing attack plan. You're putting your radios on there. You're putting your radio numbers on there, and you're telling me this whole team didn't have was going off WhatsApp and nobody had a radio. What does that look like? I'm not even going to go into all the reasons of what it looks like to me, but I'm just going to tell you right now what it looks like is you're a bunch of morons, and I'm not blaming. And I'm not talking about the detectives. I'm talking about the supervisors. I'm talking about the supervisors, because what is our ultimate job as supervisors? For 10 years, what was my job? My job was to keep the public safe and to keep my guys safe from themselves. Right? Oh, we want a little workaround because this is easier. We want a workaround for this. No, we're not doing it. Call me a shake box. I don't care. Call me a shake box. I'm not getting left out there without a radio. Who thought this was a good idea? You're running out there with undercovers and you can't get an ambulance to the scene like that. You can't communicate with each other like that. Like, I'm sorry. That whole unit needs to be ripped out. And instead, what they're trying to do is what they always do. Just blame the rank and file guys. Just throw the sergeant and the 2 detectives that we sent into the fray, unprepared, untrained, unready, and we're going to hammer them, and then we're not going to do anything. We're not going to change anything. You know, even with, the NYPD, you want to laugh? The NYPD just dropped a scooter enforcement training. Scooter, you know what it tells you how to do? The summons codes. Doesn't give you any tactics. There's no video. There's no nothing there, right? They're telling you that, oh, this guy was terrible and he did a terrible job taking this guy off the scooter and he deserves jail. So we give you, here's your moped training. It's two PDFs, pieces of paper that give you the summons enforcement codes. They don't tell you how to stop a guy when he's fleeing. They don't tell you how to take him off the thing. So I think that the whole thing was a disaster? It was, but I think that these detectives were set up for failure. I think the civilian was set up for failure. And, again, there were plenty of situations that I stopped people in where it was the wrong guy, but it was plenty of situations that I've been in when I was looked at as the wrong guy. I fit the description. And the only reason I'm here today is because of my demeanor. And, we just pretend that cops could de-escalate a situation without having an individual on the other side also attempting to de-escalate that situation. De-escalation is a shared partnership from both the cops and the public. You like, I didn't want to get shot, so that's why I'm here. Like, I could go on story after story after story. I'll just give you a real brief one. I'm 19 years old. I'm leaving Forest Avenue. We're at a bar. And I'm like, I want to leave. I don't want to go to this bar. It's all Irish guys. There's no girls there. I'm like, let's go to Bay Ridge. I want to go out. So I want to go to some lounge in Bay Ridge. I want to see girls. We leave the bar. We go to get in my car. We get boxed in by 120. I don't know, all unmarked, all guys in unmarks. They have firearms drawn at us. They're yelling commands at us. I just yell at everyone in the car, show your fucking hands. Show them your fucking hands. And I got my hands on the steering wheel. I'm like, I don't know what you think we did, but it wasn't us. We got no guns in the car. They take us out of the car. They toss us real quick. They get back in their cars. They run. They're like, this ain't them. They get back in their cars and they bounce. Was I innocent? Yeah. Did I deserve to get guns pulled on me? No. What would have happened if I would have started fighting with them? Oh, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. Probably me and all my friends would be dead right now. Because I didn't de-escalate that situation. And so, like, again, I don't know this guy's mental state, but the fact that he's in the liquor store in the middle of the day, I'm going to just make an assumption that his mental state's probably not that good. We don't see the beginning of the video. We don't have video from inside the place. Even the video that we get from outside the door, which will also play, is cut off. It's all cut off. It's all manufactured. There is a narrative being driven to profit at a profit motive. We're going to make you money. And why do you think all these reverends and all these people jump on these cases for? They want in on the lawsuit money. We're going to get you the media attention. We're going to get you interviews. It's like a consulting job. These people are grifters. And now they got a platform. They got a show that they could go on and that'll help push that narrative for them. And the show's not going to make no money off of it. And they're just going to pimp them out like two whores. We'll take all your money from you. We'll abuse you. We'll ruin all your credibility, and we're not going to give you $1. It's disgusting to watch, dude. So again, I think that this is a huge failure on leadership. I'm not so upset with the cops, dude. I'm really not. Like, they threw seven strikes, one bullshit stomp, one stomp that I believe was on the hand, and another little kick to the ass. So 7 strikes in total. 57 times. I think I said 55 before. It's actually 57. 57 times. Give me a hand. Stop resisting. Police. You don't know these guys are cops? Come on, man. It's a joke, dude. Let's watch. Mom, before you go, let's watch the whole video and then just go right after it. All right, just so everybody that didn't see this video could see it. Again, look where they're starting. It's starting with this guy's hand all the way up in the air already, right? So we don't know the communication before it, but you're not going to get me to believe. You're just not going to get me to believe that these two guys are rushing up on people, beating them up. I'm just not making that stretch for you, because that's what the news media is trying to tell us. That's what the mayor in New York City is trying to tell us. That's what Sal Greco's trying to tell you. That I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying, you're saying exactly what you're saying. You're saying the guy got head stomped multiple times. You're saying all this garbage that's not even there. You're fabricating things into what we watched in the video. But you're going to tell me these guys are just rushing up on people, beating them up? They would have been locked up before they even started. I think this guy came on in 2014. His partner came on in 2012. They've been out on the streets affecting proactive arrests for a long time. And there's no way you're going to get me to believe that these guys are just rushing up on people and then they're just playing strikes. There was a huge incident that happened before this, and conveniently, we're not seeing it. Let's watch the whole video and then Marlon, weigh in. Hold on, I'll bring it up. Here we go.
All right. Why are you punching him? Why are you punching him? Y'all some pussy ass motherfuckers. Fucking pig. Y'all fucking. I'm recording you guys. You fucking pig.
Roll over! All right, roll over! Roll over! Roll over!
Y'all, what's your bag? What's your bag number? What's your bag number? Why you punching him like that?
Roll over! Yo!
He's
Give me
punching
your hand!
the fuck?
Give me your hand! Pop! Give me your hand!
All right, Pop, all right.
Get on the phone, folks. Get on the phone.
Oh, my God.
No, he's violated.
Get on the phone.
Y'all violated. Punching that man for no reason. I got it all on there.
Can't resist arrest.
He wasn't resisting arrest. He was not resisting arrest. I got you, homie. I got you. I got you.
Yeah. You want to get arrested
I
next?
recorded that.
Hey, you do that for prosecutor. You put your hands on, you're gonna get in trouble.
Interfere with the
Gross, not me. I got a license. I got a security license in my pocket.
You got a
I'm coming
severe
to
leg.
work. I
Severe
swear to
leg.
God.
Y'all
Listen,
don't want to
listen,
I just
got listen, you gotta let go. My lady's in the
I
house.
gotta ask for a bus. You gotta lower leg.
Yes, I know. Oh my God.
Ask for the bus though. Get on the radio.
My leg is.
Put your hand behind your back.
All right.
And we can get you medical attention.
Okay.
Put your hands behind your back.
Okay.
Put your hands behind your back.
I'm going to.
No, stay calm.
All right.
Get on your stomach.
All right.
Get
Okay.
on your stomach.
Okay.
You're not listening. You're not listening.
Stay calm, Pablo.
Put your hands behind your
I'm
back.
trying.
No, you're not. Put your hands behind your back.
Listen, sir. That hand goes over here. Okay. We're gonna handcuff you and get you help. But can I? Okay. All right. You're trying to go. The hat is done.
Let go.
Sir.
Let go.
Okay. I'm coming. Sir. Put that fucking arm behind your back.
Calm down, calm down.
Let's go fight. Get him in the fucking car here. Where the fuck are these guys? Stop resisting. Stop resisting. Stop resisting. Get flat and put your arm behind your back. Get flat. Get flat.
All right.
Get on your stomach and put your hands behind your back.
All right. You're resisting.
Stop resisting.
All right.
All right. Abusing their power.
Put the fucking hands.
Shut the fuck up.
They're attacking.
Put your hands behind your back.
Why are you doing this?
They made him bleed.
Put your hands behind your back.
Stop fucking fighting.
I'm about go to the pedestrian, I'm recording everything. This guy is bleeding. Send an ambulance, send the cops, send the lieutenant.
Oh, stop resisting. Your leg is tight, man. Stop
I don't hear
resisting.
you. I don't hear you. You're on voice and focus. The liquor store, voice and focus. The person is bleeding. He
I'm trying to help you.
Fuck all these guys. I don't hear you guys. I don't hear you guys.
Stop resisting, yo. Sir, get your arms up. Back the fuck up. Back the fuck up. Back the fuck up.
I got your phone. I got your phone.
Put your gun out. Put your gun out. Put your gun out.
They're abusing this person.
Stop. Stay there. Covered in blood. Stay there.
This guy is covered in blood. There's two detectives. They came out of nowhere. I walked into the liquor store and they came and arrested somebody and they pushed him. The guy was not resisting arrest. The guy was not
You're
resisting
interfering in
arrest.
an investigation. Back the fuck up.
Come here.
Back the fuck up.
Excuse me?
Yo, miss.
I can. The officers are still trying to
Get a
apprehend
bus
this
to this
person.
location. Miss, call my mom.
I'm calling the ambulance. I'm calling the ambulance.
Call my mom's, man. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Call me. I am.
Yes, the
What you
liquor
gonna do,
store.
Mike?
There's a liquor store.
Stop playing
They
around.
fucked this guy up really bad for no reason.
There's a reason. You don't resist
He
arrest.
was
What
not
happened?
resisting arrest. This guy was not even resisting arrest, and they fucked him up for no reason. I watched the whole thing. I have the whole thing on video. They fucked up this black man. These two white cops fucked up.
All right,
this
shut
black
up.
man.
You don't talk to us like that.
Shut up.
We have every right to speak.
Just shut up.
No, you're frustrated, and that's why you want us to shut up. Don't
I want
speak
you to
me
shut up
like
because
that.
you're annoying.
No, you're annoying.
Why don't you get a job?
I do. Won't you get one better?
Stay back.
Badge number is 5056. 5058. Hold on. Let me get his badge number. Wait.
Just relax. We're gonna get you an ambulance. Where the fuck are these guys? Tell them to
Yes,
fucking come
hello.
here.
Did you bring the
Get
ambulance?
on the radio and ask for a bus. Don't take it fucking hood ASAP. Ask for a bus.
5058 is the badge number. I can't move from the location because I'm trapped inside. They won't let me leave.
You're right. It's an active arrest. You gotta stay here. Don't take it fucking hood ASAP.
Sir, what's your badge number? What's your badge number?
1032.
1032. And what's your name?
Detective Algerio.
And what's your name?
My name is Shut Up. I'm trying to make a call right now because the guy's
I'm gonna
bleeding
report
out.
you to the
Yes,
officer.
you got
I'm
my
gonna
phone,
report
sir?
you. I'm gonna report you.
You got my ID?
I'm gonna report you.
You want to get your phone and stuff?
I got his phone.
Wallet stuff. You got his phone. I don't care what your wallet. Stay there. If you come in here, you get fucking arrested. Don't come in here. I don't give a fuck what you're trying to do. I told you to fucking stay there. I told you to stay there. You fucking stay there. You come in here, you're gonna go in handcuffs. Then stay there and shut the fuck up. Relax. I don't give a fuck what you're trying to do. Pick him up. Security guard, bro. Stand up. My house right there. I'm telling you, first of all, I don't even know. Not see him. I didn't say that. Let's go. I didn't say that. I'm telling you, put his name on that. You don't beat him. Any of these guys don't get a radio ASAP, I'm making a big fucking problem. I'm not doing this WhatsApp shit no more.
All right, a lot there, brother. What do you got, Maul?
Yeah, there's so much to talk about this. I saw a point there from Crazy 10-7. Crazy 10-7 says, I bet they didn't step on the covers because they didn't have enough people that day. That's a good point, Crazy 10-7, which is one of the reasons why I don't, I find it very hard to fault the cops and the supervisor here, because there's a larger discussion to be had about narcotics and about a lot of the conditions in narcotics, including the push for numbers in narcotics. Okay. And I mean, I've talked about it before here that one of the reasons I declined my narcotics interview was I just didn't like the way narcotics played like fast and loose with a lot of things, you know. There's a much bigger discussion to be had here, and it's not the boots on the ground. It's you have to look at the top and look at the way the leadership is all the way at the top and the directives. Okay. Well, what else was I gonna say? Yeah, I just want to point out to those people who are in their feelings about all of this. Okay, and I think, you know, you look at some of the responses from people, you just can't even tell them. I mean, you break this down logically, and they're still like they're still just like they just don't understand. You know, listen, you know, everything else besides that, we have to look at the baseline of this, right? And it's that you do not have the right to resist. Okay, when a cop says you're under arrest, it's not negotiable. When a cop gives you a legal command, it's not a negotiation. Okay, it's not, oh, maybe I'll do this if the cop. No, it's you're gonna do this because I'm telling you to do this. Okay, it's not a negotiation, people. Okay, regardless of what you think the arrest is and whether you think the cop has a right to stop you, it's not a negotiation. Okay, so let's get that out of the way, right? And this talk about the radio also, I just want to point out that there are still things we don't know, and we don't know what these guys' role were for the day. Now, I'm not excusing it, right? But there were times when I remember I wasn't in narcotics, but I was in Intel, and we worked with FIOs. We were like the junior surveillance team of Intel. And there was a time when I had to ghost the CI into some projects in Brownsville, and I didn't have my radio on me. You know, the only thing I had on me was my firearm, you know, my firearm and my cell phone, you know. So, I mean, sometimes it sucks and it's not very tactical, but you have to look at the tools you're given in the NYPD. And again, this is why I said there's a larger discussion to be had here, and it goes all the way to the top, right? And we need to find out what their rules were for the day. And we also need to find out if what led them to follow that guy into the bodega, right? And whether there was enough time for any sort of tactical planning beforehand, okay? Because you know, things happen sometimes, you know, especially when you're dealing with like these units that are very what's the word? When you're like narcotics, when things happen, and sometimes you're not going to plan perfectly for the situation. It's just is what it is, you know. But the thing is, a lot of people are changing this discussion from, you know, first they were upset at the video because the arrest looks ugly, and now they're saying, oh well, cop should have had his radio. This is why things went out of hand. It's because he didn't have his radio. Well, okay, but are we saying that we now need to call an entire squad to arrest the guy now? Okay, is that what we're saying? We need to get an entire squad of 6 guys to arrest one person now? Because if we are, then that's an issue too. Because back in the day, we used to be able to take down one guy with just 2 cops. Okay, and if tactics have driven us to the point where we now need to take 5 or 6 guys to take down one guy, then that's a problem. Okay, and sometimes even if you have your radio dies. Okay, so if that cop on the street has a dead radio and he can't call a squad of 6 guys to arrest the perp, what is he gonna do? What are you supposed to do? You just walk away and let him go now? I mean, there's so many issues to talk about this, and there's a lot going on here.
So let's talk about that. We've talked about the diaphragm law, and I've said numerous times, and I've been saying this for years, that the diaphragm law that was enacted by City Council has led the cops to use more brutal tactics. So, John, can please do me a favor? Can you go to the video and pause where both detectives are hovered over the perp, and you can see the detective with the white hair is by the perpetrator's legs, and I say perpetrator because he resisted arrest. That is a crime. And the other detective is, you can see he's completely conscious and cognizant of the diaphragm law the entire time. He's on his knees adjacent to the perpetrator while he's lying down in a position where he promotes free breathing. So while I believe not all of the force was good tactics, but I don't think that it was, I don't think they had any bad intentions in their heart. I don't see any malice there. Even the kick to the ass, right? It was a kick to the ass. He didn't hurt him. It was more of, it wasn't purposeful. There was no emotion. It was more about the frustration. To me, it doesn't appear that he stomped on his head. It looks like it was close to his hand. I can't make confirmation on it. But if you get to that point where the cop is on his knees and the other detective is by his legs, they are completely aware of NYPD use of force of policy and also the diaphragm law. These are two big guys. If they would place their knees or put any chest-to-chest pressure on the diaphragm, they would have a better chance of controlling this subject because he's resisting arrest. And I've said this, because of diaphragm law, they're forced to utilize much more brutal tactics, which are strikes. Now, strikes are still applicable. It's still something that's trained, and it's still something that falls under Article 35. Police officers have a right to defend themselves. Now, Hoodmayer says here in the chat, did the suspect throw a punch? So I see you've been putting emphasis on the fact that the perpetrator doesn't deploy a punch. There are different types of arrests, resisting. And there's also, if a perpetrator is deploying punches, that's also a different crime. If he's deploying punches to try to strike one of the cops, that would be an attempted assault or an actual assault. But resisting arrest doesn't have to be deploying strikes. Him posturing, putting his body in position, refusing to be handcuffed is actively resisting. And unless you've been there, so Justice Jack, I know, has been there, and I question if Sal has been there also, unless you've been in these situations trying to arrest a resisting perpetrator, it's extremely difficult. And even with training, I trained my entire life, it's very difficult to place someone into handcuffs when they're posturing their body, putting their body in a position where they don't want to be cuffed and making their body completely stiff. This is a crime. And these charges have already been dismissed. Think about it. Even though this is the wrong subject, this subject resisted arrest. And under the penal law, resisting arrest is a crime. And yet that was not charged. So that's the message to the police officers in New York City, that if you resist arrest, it's okay in New York City. You will not be charged as long as it doesn't look good. Now, using force, most of the time, it doesn't ever look good. People don't want to see it. And if you don't like it, close your eyes. Honestly, I really don't have a problem with the actual force. I have a problem with the fact that there's no discipline. And that falls on the leadership. The fact that they didn't have radios. And John, that's not being a shake box. I would have let my guys go out there without a radio either. That's being a good boss. That's actually protecting them, protecting the public, right? Because you want to have communication. I always felt that the cops that worked for me, almost like they were my children, and I was responsible for them. I wanted them to go home safe. I didn't want to tell one of my cops their wife or their husband, God forbid, got hurt, injured, or even killed, and it was on my shoulders, right? Because those were my people. So that's not being a shake box. That's having good discipline and good leadership. And you see the distress as everything falls apart. But I want to say the use of force is not out of control. Some of it is not purposeful. It's because they're under stress, the little kick to the butt. But I don't think anyone should be terminated for that. This is a stressful situation. And people have to understand that when a perpetrator is resisting, you put yourself in that situation. If you comply, none of this would ever happen. Now, I'm not excusing the kick to the butt, but I don't think it's something you should be terminated for. But what I do have an issue with, the fact that they're communicating on WhatsApp. Communication is so important. So I hope that the job, when I say the job, the leadership that is there right now learns from this and doesn't allow this even going further. Every unit, you must have communication. That's one of the most important aspects of policing. But again, be mindful, John, if you could go to the point and freeze where the cop is on his knees adjacent to the perpetrator and the detective is by his legs, they are both extremely cognizant of the diaphragm law. Look at that. If you go back, look, he's on his knees next to him. He's a big guy. He can easily put his knee on the hip to that perpetrator or on his belly and put some chest-to-chest pressure, and yet he's not doing that because he's aware of use of force policy. So I have no issues with the use of force right here.
But even with that, like again, like the point that I always make is that they always try not to violate the diaphragm law, and then they wind up violating it anyway. Even here, he's violating it. He's putting pressure to his back. He's putting slight pressure to his back. There's no percentage of pressure. He's violating it right here. So that just shows how incompetent the diaphragm law is, and it leads to cops being closed fist strikes. Here's another thing that really bothered me. I keep watching and listening to people weigh in on this. Retired NYPD Lieutenant Darren Porcher, I like to call him Tender Hands because he never did anything like Tariq Shepard or a lot of other people on this job. He said that this individual was passively resisting. So passive resistance is like, say, you're at a protest and you sit down and you lock arms with each other and you're like, I'm not getting up. That is passive resistance, right? Then it would be reasonable to say that these cops shouldn't have used force. You could have made it like, if someone's at a protest and they're like, whatever protest it is, freeze the rent protest, and they sit down in the street and they're like, we're not getting up, and you tell them a million times they're not getting up. If you walk up and you just start popping them in the face, they broke the law. Yeah, that's excessive force. 100%. This individual is standing on his feet, flailing his arms. This, by definition, it's the definition of actively resisting arrest. I mean, so I don't know what Darren Porcher does. I know he was training people in the academy, and that's probably why we have many of the issues we have today. He probably trained Chief Levon Holly, and that's probably why all his guys went out there on a WhatsApp, and he didn't think that was dangerous. Because I'll tell you right now, if I was a 5-year wonder, rookie sergeant, and you said, yeah, we're all going out there and doing this operation without radios, I would say absolutely not. Stop the presses. I don't care who says we're doing that. We're not doing that. We're not doing it. I'm not doing it. You're never sending me out on New York City streets without the radio, because it is the single most important thing that you have. That is it. Your radio is your number one tool. Besides your brain, it's your radio. And look, and the other point that like everyone's missing here is like, yeah, they were set up for failure by their leadership. They had zero communication with what was going on out there. They didn't know where the other guys were. This woman is on the phone with 911 for 7 minutes and 42 seconds, and there is not an ambulance there. There is not a cop car there. Nobody comes for an 85. Takes 7 minutes and 42 seconds in the 7-6. How big is the 7-6 precinct? It's not big. It's not big. Like, come on. Where are all the cop cars? Where are all the members that you have? Where is this fully staffed NYPD? You would think that, I'm more upset about that than I think anything. Like, you're calling 911 for 7 minutes, 42 seconds. Yeah, she's a pain in the ass, but she clearly gives the address of where they are. She tells them this guy's bleeding out on the ground. When they're walking out, you don't even hear sirens coming up. You never hear sirens. You never see a uniformed cop. You never see an ambulance. I mean, come on. So that this is the level of emergency response you have, and we're gonna flip out on the cops. Cops are trying to get help there with the tools that they were allotted and given, and their supervision told them to have. They can't. It failed them. But even the 911 system failed these cops and failed that man, because this situation should have came to a close the minute this lady called 911. There should have been cops there within 3 minutes. There should have been an ambulance en route there immediately. How long was the response time for this? She says we have cops beating people up and the guy's bleeding out on the ground. Get somebody here right now. That you're a 911 operator. I'm immediately sending a patrol supervisor there, and I'm sending the ambulance there immediately. And more than likely, I'm putting this over as a possible 1013 too, as well. I don't know what's happening. There should have been that place when they walked out, that whole block should have been covered with cop cars and ambulances. And when they walk out, who's there? Just their team that they reached out on WhatsApp. The WhatsApp communication was quicker than the 911 call. Like the whole thing it's disturbing. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say that like, oh, these guys are great. Like you just had a narcotics sergeant get 3 to 9 years for doing this exact type of work. And you morons are rushing out there headstrong using WhatsApp as communication and rushing up to go get numbers for this mayor, for this police commissioner. That's your sin that you're guilty of. You're guilty of, I'm just going to keep doing my job. It's ridiculous, dude. It's absolutely ridiculous. And Scott, I know you're listening. So This work should be done. I'm the SBA president. I'm the LBA president. I'm the SBA president. I'm the DEA president. I'm the police officers. We are no longer engaging in buy and bust. We are no longer chasing scooters. We're not doing it. We're not doing it until you change something here. We're not doing it because we're not going to jail that every time someone resists arrest. This is by definition actively resisting arrest. So I don't know what Darren Porch is talking about. I don't know what Sal Greco's talking about. I don't know what any of these other grifters that think they want to be famous and know zero about police work, right? Because you guys could be famous. Doesn't mean you're not going to be looked at as morons because you have zero clue what you're talking about. Maybe you could fool the public, but you're not going to fool the rest of us. This is actively resisting. You do not do this. You do, and if you look at the law of what is resisting arrest is, it is that exactly that. Flailing your arms, violently trying to escape, rushing, doesn't need to be a punch. Doesn't need to be a punch. So I don't know what Darren Porch is talking about. I have no idea.
Yeah. Great energy. Blaming everyone else but the two detectives. Yes. Great detective. Great energy. I'm sorry if you want us to just jump on the outreach bait, like everyone else, like John mentioned, seems to be jumping on it. I think there's a lot that we're missing here, and I don't think you could immediately just jump on these two detectives. Okay, again, there's a lot of points that have been brought up here about, and I mentioned last go around about that there's a larger discussion here about narcotics and a larger discussion here about the way the job runs that bureau, or division as it now is, but again, there's a lot to talk about here, and John made a good point about the manpower on the street. It's a very good point. Like where there was no units showing up when the ladies like on the phone with 911. Where are the patrol units? Once that goes over, why doesn't communications automatically? How do they know it's not the cop getting beaten up right now on the floor? So I don't understand that, but it shouldn't be a surprise to us because we've been talking for a while that one of the other problems that may eventually contribute to a cop getting injured or worse on his job is the fact that there's inadequate staffing in the precincts. Okay. And when you call for help, how long is it going to take before that help shows up? So again, if this is your first time joining us, welcome to the Finest Unfiltered, where we tell you an issue years in advance, right? We keep talking about the issue, and then eventually it comes up in the media, and eventually a cop is either thrown to the wolves for it, or somebody gets hurt, But we've been talking about these issues for a while now, and maybe we're just not in the inside, but it doesn't seem like anybody at 1PP is really talking about this or the unions, because the unions should definitely be talking about the diaphragm law, right? Because how many of these arrests is it going to take before somebody starts to put pressure on the politicians to modify the law? You can see right now it's a problem. It's a problem, and the longer an arrest goes on, the greater the likelihood that things will go sideways, right? And in the process of things going sideways, either the cop is going to get hurt or the perp is going to get hurt. Okay, an arrest needs to happen. That, in my opinion, right, things need to happen as quickly as possible. You need to get the guy in cuffs as quickly as possible, and so a timeout could be called.
Well, first of all, Darren Porcher, he shouldn't even have any space. He has no idea what he's talking about. Any real cop that's ever done police work could tell you the difference between passive and active. Passive is when someone has no reaction. Active is when someone is trying to take control and they're not complying with commands. And John had told you numerous times there was 57 commands trying to get this resisting perpetrator in handcuffs. Keep that in mind. 57 times this perpetrator, and I'll continue to say perpetrator because resisting arrest is a crime. Even though this charges were dismissed and dropped, it is a crime to resist arrest, whether there's probable cause or not. So today, he is a perpetrator. In my mind, he's still a perpetrator. He was not charged for this crime. Now, active resisting is exactly that. Not cooperating with commands, posturing your body, trying to take control. And that's what this perpetrator is doing. So there's several flashpoints here that I want to discuss when it comes to this incident. Now, overall, I think these cops, they did their job. And they did as best as they could with complete failures being there. And those failures are not necessarily the actual force. The failures are not having radios, not being part of a cohesive team with complete discipline. And that falls on the leadership. That falls on the leadership. We say it all the time. Leadership, leadership, leadership. Now, what amazes me is I was hoping that the case with Sergeant Eric Duran would be the quintessential pinnacle moment that would put the brakes for cops to say, wait a minute, what the hell are we doing here? Do I want to be this next Sergeant Eric Duran? But unfortunately, the entire police department suffers from it won't happen to me until it comes around and it happens to you. And I have to say to the unions, not where are you, but it's too late. You need to get in front of this right now. That goes to every union. And I got a great relationship with Scott. I spoke to Scott. Scott wants to get right in front of this. I do believe Scott actually cares about the guys. But you have to. This includes every union. They need a coalition, and every union has to get in front of this and say, absolutely, aggressive, intrusive police work stops until we rectify this issue with Sergeant Eric Duran. Because these detectives, they may, who knows, they may be charged. They may be charged. But everyone says it won't happen to me. Will it? And everyone is going out there. The cops are going out there, and their hearts are in the right place. But you're not thinking. Because right now, this could be you. And failures in policing do happen. Now, is this a failure that they don't have communication? Absolutely, it's a failure. But policing, just like any job, there are failures that happen, and that's why afterwards you have a post follow-up and discuss what went well, what didn't go well, what do we need to fix. That's what good cohesive units do. And hopefully they learn from this, because not having communication leads to emotional distress, just as you see. But no matter what, that perpetrator is active resisting. He's passive resisting, has no idea what it is to put a hands on a perpetrator. Sal, I have to question what type of police work you were doing. You were cherry picking who you're going to stop. And Justice Jack, the only resisting you ever had was trying to get your pillow comfortable at night. That's the only resistance you've ever had in your life. So your opinion just doesn't count. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is resisting arrest. This is textbook 101. Anyone that's been in this situation knows damn well one thing I always say often. One of the most difficult things there is to do is try to control another human being that doesn't want to comply. And here's the bottom line. And here's the goddamn truth. If this perpetrator would have complied, none of this happens. He's not injured. The cops aren't in distress. This is not a viral video. If you comply, this doesn't happen.
Yeah, but there's no money in that, so we just keep telling people to resist arrest so that, more of this stuff keeps happening. And that's the problem. That's the real issue, is that the leadership of the city doesn't address the fact that people should just comply. Don't fight with the police. No one says it. Absolutely no one says it. It's really scary, People asking why, we already covered it, asking why they didn't have their radios. Apparently all of Brooklyn South Narcotics, and potentially all of narcotics, because I don't think they just came up with this on their own, are using WhatsApp chat to communicate without radios. So, and again, that is not on these two detectives. That is on the leadership of the NYPD. That is on the leadership of narcotics. Absolutely, that should be investigated. Absolutely, those supervisors, because without those supervisors, it never happens. It never happens without those supervisors. They allowed it to happen. They may have even ordered it to happen. So that's I don't have anything good to say about that. But I'm just not pinning it on just these two detectives. I'm pinning it on the whole narcotics unit. I'm pinning it on the chief of narcotics. I'm pinning it on the CEO of narcotics. I'm pinning it on who signed off on that TAC plan. I'm signed off on who put that together, that TAC plan, on who knew they were out there without radios. That's a bigger violation to me than going out there with your gun. I'd rather see you out there without your gun than out without your radio. Because how many times are you using your gun in your career? Hopefully never. Hopefully never. You know how many times you're going to use your radio? Every single day, multiple times a day. You're out there without your radio, to me, so you're suspended. You're suspended. You don't have a radio on you? You're suspended. You know, like, and again, and this was their sergeants put them in that scenario. Their sergeants, their lieutenants, everybody put them in their scenario. You know, everyone put them in that scenario. Leadership failed them. They failed this individual. And again, I'm just going to go back one more time. Let's just say this guy was drunk and he fell into those glass bottles and he cut his leg and he started bleeding out. The lady calls 911. What's the response time? You know, they weren't there for 7 minutes and 42 seconds. What makes you think they're going to be there in another 7 minutes and 42 seconds? You know, and again, like, you know, people took a lot of issue with them dragging him across the floor. He was reaching and trying to fight to get away. It looks like he reaches for the cabinet to try to use as leverage to pull, but he could have been reaching for the bottle, which we don't know, right? And the bottle smashed. So the reason they drag him away is to get him away from the bottle, to get him away from the broken glass, to get him in an area that's safe for everyone. They're dragging him to protect him. So I don't know what your issue is with the drag. Like, there's zero issue with the drag here. Zero. And again, the initial shots, what are you doing? The guy is actively resisting arrest. What are you supposed to do? You can't use jujitsu maneuvers, because if you do, you're going to jail for a misdemeanor. You can't use wrestling maneuvers, because if you do, you're going to jail for a misdemeanor. The only option they have is to throw closed fist strikes. So there's nothing here. And then he falls into the glass because he's actively resisting, flailing his arms, knocks all the things down. The things he knocked down are what cut him. Right? That's what cut him. It wasn't the cops. And then so they're like, oh shit. And they try to get him off to the side. To me personally, I think that, you know, it was a setup for failure, but I think that this dude was drinking ahead of time, because he's entering the liquor store. He's bleeding out on a superficial wound, and then it stops bleeding all of a sudden. It's like, you know, it was bleeding, and then all of a sudden it stops bleeding. And to me, that's signs of someone that was intoxicated. And he might not have known who they were. And if he didn't know who they were, it was because he was intoxicated. And it was just an all-around bad scenario that the leadership of the NYPD set this individual up for failure and these two detectives up for failure. And they're going to try to attempt to hang it all on these two guys' shoulders and their sergeant's shoulders. And it shouldn't stop there. You know what I mean? Again, I see a lot of things wrong here. I think everyone on that team should get charges. Every single person. I don't care you were in that store that day or you showed up after the fact. Anyone that engaged in any of this WhatsApp bullshit, you should all get charges, in my opinion. Because I don't know what the hell you guys are thinking. You know, and again, most guys on this job will do things to violate the procedures of the job, put their safety in danger, put their life in danger, put their partner's life in danger to get numbers, so that at the end of the month you came up with numbers for your overtime. You don't think Sergeant Duran right now is sitting in prison saying, I should have just went to patrol and sat on the desk and just answered these 911 calls. I shouldn't have been this proactive guy. You know, I'm sitting here and going, yeah, I got screwed. I'm sitting here watching all the things that happen in New York City. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I should thank my damn blessings that I have a pension and I have healthcare. Because I'll tell you right now, I bet all of you wish you vested out, right? All of you vested out and you got the money and you secured the deal and you said, yeah, pay me for the rest of my life. Because this is a no-win situation that cops are being put into, and no one's talking about it. And then you have people coming out here telling you, claiming to be use of force experts, and they're lying. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're telling you that punches aren't trained. They're telling you that they should have used wrestling and jiu-jitsu maneuvers that are illegal in New York City. They're telling you all of these things that it doesn't, you know, it doesn't apply. And Manan Samurai says, nowhere in CCB training manual does it say not to carry a department issued radio. Arrests look horrible by by not using a radio is where these guys went wrong. Boss says, don't wear your vest. Are you listening? Hell no. You know, and that's the other thing, you know, and that's another thing. Like people were texting me about Sal, like he's saying, oh, they weren't wearing their vest. Oh, they didn't have this on them. Look, if you know, if you want to be in the inspections team, that's fine. You can hit guys for command disciplines, but this isn't where the failure happened. The failure happened with the communication, and that stemmed directly from the leadership, and that led all into it. And the other failure is on the actions of this individual. He escalated the situation. He got physical with them. I guarantee if you ever get the clear shot of that video, or you get the video from inside that store, you're going to see a totally different, you're going to see this from a totally different angle than what's being shown now. You literally see the guy fighting. They didn't just walk up to him and start punching him. So, and anyone that believes that, you're a moron. If you're the mayor of New York City and you believe that, you should honestly resign. If you're the police commissioner and you believe that, you should resign. If you're the chief of department and you believe that, you should resign, because clear as day, that didn't happen. That absolutely did not happen. You know, I could take any part of this video, cut it out, give you 5 seconds of it, and it's going to look bad. But that doesn't mean it actually is bad. Everything they did here was trained, except for that radio response. But hey, look, if it takes 7 minutes and 42 seconds and you still don't get a 911 response, what's the response going to be even when they get on that radio? You know, so I mean, you know, at the end of the day, all around failure, everybody gets charges. But to go out and hang these guys out on a limb and say they should go to jail. And by the way, do I think that DA Eric Gonzalez is gonna bring charges? Yeah, I do, because the mayor in New York City and the police commissioner already found them guilty. And everyone in narcotics, just like they did to Duran, is going to turn their backs on these two guys and the sergeant. Every single person.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I just think that, again, people, you don't have a right to resist arrest. It's not a negotiation. It's not a question. Okay, it's a command, a legal, lawful command, regardless of what you think. Okay, right? So the people who are upset at this video, you know, again, they're upset. They don't care about the radio or any of that. It's honestly us cops who are saying that it's stupid that you didn't have a radio, right? But I give them leeway because we don't know the circumstances that brought them in this situation to begin with. We don't know what they were doing beforehand. You know, we don't know if they just quickly ran out, and you know, it sucks and it's not tactical, but let me tell you, it happens. It really does happen. But the issue here is that those people watch this video think the arrest is ugly. The cop shouldn't have punched the guy. The cop, you know, what are the cops supposed to do? Give him put him under arrest using pillows? You know, if the cops can't use jujitsu moves, they can't use wrestling moves, as John said, and what else? So what else should they use to put him in cuffs? Should they beg him to put on the cuffs himself, or should they just say, "Oh, you don't want to be arrested? Okay, sorry, sir. Have a nice day," and just walk away? What are you gonna do? What are you supposed to do? Please, if there's anyone out there who's upset at this arrest and has an idea of how they should arrest him, let us know. Let us know how you should do that. How you should apply force to get him in cuffs without injuring him when he's resisting. Okay. And the other thing I want to mention is that again, there's a certain amount of pressure that comes from the top. Okay. And I believe that pressure to arrest, to get the numbers, to get the body, okay, it played a role in Sergeant Duran's incident too. And I think it plays a role here too, which is why we have to scrutinize the top, okay, and the entire system in general, okay, and how the entire system puts detectives and cops in a situation that, you know, you're more than likely going to lose either way. You know, look at Daniel Pantaleo. Remember, Daniel Pantaleo was ordered to go there, you know, and you know, and we know what happened, right? So you have to take that into mind. The entire system is screwed up. Now, there was talk of this on the Executive Perspective episode, and I thought it was a good episode too. that you guys should go back and watch when you get a chance. But the thing is, nobody ever tells you that one of the problems with the job is expedience. Okay, everyone tells you there's pressure that comes from the top to get it done, but nobody stops to analyze how the situation is untenable and how we can't get it done within the time frame that they want it done. But nobody cares, okay? Because when inspector or chief so and so wants so and so, okay, nobody cares how it's done. They just want it done, okay? And that puts cops and detectives in a position where they're trying to get it done for the boss, and in trying to get it done, things go sideways, okay? Try to get things done expediently, things go sideways, and now they get thrown to the wolves, okay? So that needs to be looked at, and there's a larger discussion there to be had.
Well, let's also talk about this. I'm sure the Civilian Complaint Review Board is going to sink their teeth to this because of their language and the fact that the one detective wasn't providing his information to that annoying woman. Let's be honest, she was annoying. She wasn't calling 911 to help the cops. She was calling 911 to help the perpetrator. That's the reality. She was calling 911 because she wanted those cops to get in trouble. She was asking for a lieutenant, for a sergeant. It was just trying to get those cops in trouble. Now, when it comes to the Right to Know Act, which was enacted by City Council, if anyone's watching this right now, if you're an active cop, you know what that is. If you're retired, maybe you know, maybe you don't. The Right to Know Act that was enacted is not just a policy, but it's actually law, where a cop is supposed to provide their information. The problem is, this is not the time and place. It's like, hey, lady, I maybe mid-punch, maybe while you're in the middle of fighting, that's probably not the time that you have to give someone your information. And someone could say, oh, the detective wasn't fighting at that point. He's standing at the door. No, he's still engaged in battle. He's trying to figure out how to get communication with his team. He's trying to make sure his partner's okay with a resisting perpetrator who was still not handcuffed. While the detective was trying to make communication, the other detective was still on the ground trying to get the perpetrator in handcuffs, still giving numerous commands. He even at one point said, stop fighting. So for Darren Porcher, I didn't know that's passive. I heard the detective specifically say, stop fighting. This Right to Know Act has gone too far. If you're in the middle of engaged in battle, you should not have to provide your information. That's not a time to have good customer service. Now, I get the Right to Know Act, but there's a time and place also. And the unions have to push back on that Right to Know Act. It's absolutely ridiculous. Here, Dog 29 says Right to Know Act is a joke. They're getting charged with specs. Yeah, there's no doubt about it from the Civilian Complaint Review Board. But that's not the time and place. That lady is annoying. That guy was right. Shut up. He's trying to get that situation under control. You're asking for his name. You can care less of what's going on with the cop. You know, it's a shame that citizens have such a hatred and bias for the cops. She can care less that those cops are in that situation. She doesn't care what happened with that perpetrator. You have no idea. Some people said, oh, he didn't do anything. You don't know what happened. You don't know the context that led up to that. There's absolutely no respect for police and law enforcement. This Right to Know Act has gone too far. You should not have to give someone your badge, your information, while you're in the middle of battle. Like, while you're in the middle of a punch. Hey, my name is so-and-so. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's the stupidest law that was enacted by City Council. Speaking of City Council, someone in the comments said, we should see Lincoln Wrestler should show us how to make an arrest. It's funny. The people that have never been involved in any physical confrontation in their lives want to enact on how the police should respond in a physical manner. It's absolutely ridiculous. Marlon, John, what we're watching here is ugly, but police work is ugly. Were there mistakes there? Yes, but ultimately, we still have a resisting perpetrator. Can we not negate the fact that resisting is a crime? If he didn't resist, this doesn't happen. He got a kick in the ass. Guess what? You should get a kick in the ass. I'm not saying literally, but figuratively speaking, you should get a kick in the ass by resisting arrest in New York City streets. But you know what? It's going to happen right now. There's no doubt about it. We already have a push to remove SRG, but I'm sure the mayor is going to push to remove narcotics. Watch out. That'll be the next thing. Disband narcotics altogether. It will be some community policing thing. I'm sure that's what's next. John, what do you close, brother?
I would have disbanded narco way before I disbanded anti-crime. I would have disbanded them in 2013. I would have said, you know what? They don't want this. Why am I going to send these guys out there to do this work? We're not even getting these cases drawn up. Nobody cares about drugs. Nobody. And you see it in the chat too. Oh, the guy was just buying coke, or they just thought he was buying coke, whatever. You know, nobody cares. Like, why? I'm going to get rid of an effective unit that goes out there and polices robberies, burglaries, grand larceny auto, that knows the internal workings of that precinct, the people that are real tuned in with the crime patterns that are happening. I'm going to get rid of that unit and I'm going to keep the narcotics module. Why? I would have got rid of them years ago, dude. They should absolutely be disbanded. And you know, and I'm not saying they should be disbanded because they do bad work. I'm saying they should be disbanded because New York City doesn't want that work. You know, and I keep hearing, oh, you know, this is Mondani, this is Mondani, this is Mondani. What do you think the response would have been if it was Cuomo? Oh, this is not what do we do? We don't do this type of policing. It would have been the same thing. It would have been the same thing. Nothing would have changed. He would have ran with Lincoln Wrestler and all this stuff too. This kid says it here. He was alluding to what you guys were talking about. Transit District 32, public safety, chase perp for theft of service. Perp runs onto the tracks, fell, hit his head. Team got bounced to patrol and took a 10-day hit. Was it worth it? You know, and honestly, and that's a lucky scenario. That's a lucky scenario. Only got 10 days and he got bounced to patrol. You still got a job. Congratulations. You're still getting paid. You know, look at Durant. He's sitting in jail right now. He's sitting in jail, and you have a union fundraising millions of dollars in his name. That his family's never going to get, and he's never going to get. For a case that he probably had almost near 0% chance of winning because they failed him to present a proper defense in originally.
What are your thoughts on that right to know act? Don't you think though it's so ridiculous that the cops have to give their badge number while they're in the middle? Now I get it. Some people say, "Oh, it's the easiest thing. Just give your badge number." But it's the premise behind it. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous and it's silly.
Well, again, you know, I'm watching those two guys, dude, and I'm like, it's hard for me to even watch it, dude, because I'm getting agitated listening to her, and what you watched out of him, like he is, you could tell that guy is suffering from post-traumatic stress. Like that is like the epitome of what post-traumatic stress is. Like he's in that scenario, he starts breaking down. He's talking to himself there when he's saying, "Where the F are these guys? Where the F are these guys? Where they?" And he keeps doing it and he keeps doing it. And then he's like trying to talk to the guy, but she's talking and he's trying to make the phone call and he can't do it. And she's starting and he's just completely broke down. He's just completely not there anymore. He's not functioning anymore. He's like, my badge number is go fuck F yourself or whatever he tells her, right? And that is exact. And dude, I've done the same thing in that scenario. You don't even care anymore. The rules, the regulations, you're just out of it. You're just out of it. Your adrenaline's flowing. You're overwhelmed. He's this close to having a panic attack. Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, all the shit that you guys do, it leads up to this. And when you retire, it doesn't just go away. It doesn't. All those scenarios, that is a traumatic event for everybody that was in that scenario. And those things don't go away. And like I told you, these guys have over 300 arrests each. They've been in hundreds of traumatic incidents, if not thousands, because not every time you go to a traumatic incident are you taking an arrest. Not every traumatic incident is even an arrest, you know? And so he's suffering from a bout of PTSD right there. He's almost going out of the picture, to be honest with you. And it's because his leadership failed him. They put them in a no-win situation. That the radio thing to me is inexcusable. Like I said, everybody gets charges. I'm not like holding punches. If somebody went out on patrol one day without a radio, they should get suspended immediately. Suspended, charges. Like that is insane. That is the most dangerous thing you could do. I mean, even when we were rookies, I remember Dennis Myra driving us around in a van. And he would drive us around, and what he would do is he'd talk to you. Tell me about your girlfriend. Tell me about this. Blah, 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 blah. And then he would just slam the brakes.
Where are we? Yep.
Where are we? Oh, you don't know? You're fucking dead. You're dead. You know? And why did you need to know where you are? You need to know because if you turn the corner and somebody's shooting each other or they're shooting at you, yeah, I'm on the corner. I'm the west corner of 100 and whatever. I'm on Center Street, 100 Center. I'm right in front of 100 Center Street. Blah, 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 blah. You need to be able to put it over because you need to be able to put it over the radio to get help. Not be able to get to your phone, get to your WhatsApp, fucking text people, call people. No, phone immediately because that might be your only transmission. That might be the only time you have to do 2 seconds is go Central. Let me get other units over here front of 100 Center Street. And that might be it. Now your hands are tied. You're never getting back to your radio. You're never getting back to your radio. You see the panic in him, dude, going through that, and he's breaking. He's totally breaking down. Screw that right to know act. That thing is ridiculous. That was just another thing.
Brother.
It was just another thing that was put in there to emasculate the police, confuse the police, and take power away from them, take authority away from them. Now if they would have walked away, not gave the badge number, been totally unprofessional after the scene comes to a close, then yeah, I'd say, you know what? What's in the rules that we have to give our names and badge number. I believe in transparency. But in that moment in time, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't have to stop what I'm doing and be like, oh, here's my business card. I don't have to do that.
I just want to say this for the record. If you're watching, Dennis Myra and John Fitzgibbons, I want to thank you guys. And you know what? Honestly, all kidding aside, I didn't realize how valuable they were until years later. I remember when we were rookies, I remember honestly just having a good time. They would make you laugh. But I didn't realize how valuable they were until years later, being a boss myself and having to teach guys and realize, man, how lucky we were to have senior cops that were they were senior cops with time on the job and they were still active and they taught you a lot. But they did it in a way where they made it fun. And you didn't realize that they were actually teaching you. And they would do things like that, right? I remember Dennis Myra would be on his way to work and he would drive by you real fast on purpose just to see if you were paying attention. And John Fitzgibbons would do the same thing. He'd always ask me questions. What do you do now? What do you say here? And I didn't realize how valuable they were. So they're in retirement. They were anti-crime guys. They were great. It really taught us a lot. And it's sad, but the cops don't have that right now. And you're right, John. Were you laughing?
I was thinking about the last time I seen them.
No, dude, those guys are honestly, they were hilarious. So shout out to them. Yeah. They made it so much fun. I mean, they played pranks all day and they made it so much fun, but you learned a lot. They were good cops. They really taught you how to observe things, what to look for. Always they put an emphasis on location. That was huge being brand new. So I want to thank them, honestly, all kidding aside. And but with that being said, I just think people don't understand the reality. The cops are human. Some people are saying, well, the cops are not fit for the job. If you've never been in physical confrontation, you don't understand it. There's a difference between being a UFC fighter, an MMA fighter, or even just getting a physical confrontation with someone in the street than being a cop. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. The whole environment, all right? There's no rules there. In an MMA situation, rules, even in a street fight with two people, there's rules, right? Someone's trying to win that fight. But for cops, there's really no rules. It could be life or death. And for the cops that are in a situation, they have to worry about where's their team, what's their level of communication, do they have probable cause for that arrest, make sure everyone is safe, make sure that they're in a good position. And there's a lot of stress going on out there. For some people, that would be a nightmare. For those guys, that's every day. They're involved in 300 some arrests. And for some people, I agree, John. That's why I agree. I think I would disband narcotics before I disband anti-crime because most of the drugs are decriminalized in New York City anyway. And you could say, well, they're not decriminalized. No, most of these cases are getting dropped. They're getting dismissed. I even had, back when things were much better than they are right now, I've had perpetrators with 80, 100 bags of dope, and they were getting charged with possession and not getting charged with intent to sell. So I can only imagine now where it's going right now. Most of these people, these cases are getting dismissed or some community outreach. They're not actually getting jailed anyway. So why are the cops putting themselves in this situation? You saw what happened to Sergeant Eric Duran. Please don't be the next Eric Duran. Don't be the next Hugh Barry. Don't be the next Daniel Pantaleo. What is it going to take to you? Wake up and say, wait a minute. The leadership's not looking out for me. They'll let me go out there with WhatsApp, but yet they want the numbers. And every time they push you for numbers, they're pushing you closer to jail. Think about it. And if you do end up in jail, they're not going to come visit you. They're not going to be there. Stephen S. says we should learn from Singapore. Exactly. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's no tolerance there. And the bottom line is no one will be there. Do you think Mike LePetri is going to be a visitor for Sergeant Eric Duran? Is Mike LePetri going to visit him? Is the narcotics boss going to visit? Oh, no. They can't. Guess what? You know what they're going to say? They can't associate with Sergeant Eric Duran anymore because he's now a criminal. They can't even associate with him. So think about that. right? Criminal association. Apparently, they're still on the books, right? That's the one thing I understand for Sal. He was terminated for criminal association. So technically, Sergeant Eric Durant is now a criminal. So none of these people can visit him because they can't associate with a criminal. Think about that.
Yeah, and Mullen, just for sever the tether, like this is another argument that I just can't stand. It's the most ridiculous argument, like police using force and pulling guns is not exclusive to black people. So I just want to get that straight out. If I was to resist arrest in that situation, I am also getting punches thrown at me. That scenario goes absolutely no different for someone who you think's white. He says, man, we all fought growing up. Y'all think that's a flex. And guns and death have always been a threat for some of us since childhood. Let me tell you something. Guns and death have been a threat for all of us since childhood. Unless you grew up in Cupcake, wherever, this is life in New York City. This is life in New York, especially for me, Maul and Eric, who grew up in the 90s under the broken windows theory of policing, when the cops were literally rushing in the schoolyards when the sun was coming down. We would be playing basketball. I'd be getting thrown up against the thing. You think if I didn't fight with those guys, you know how many times I got thrown on the ground because they literally broke up a basketball game to toss us when I have no pockets? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I don't even have my shirt on, dude. What are you searching? I don't have a shirt on. I have basketball shorts with no pockets. Like I'm playing a basketball game covered in sweat, and next thing I know, I'm getting thrown on the ground. This isn't like, it's not exclusive to the black community. So it annoys me every time I hear it. Yeah, all right, Juju. Yeah, Juju's like, oh yeah, he's lying. Yeah, all right. I didn't grow up writing pretend fantasy crime novels and then become a cop. And the last thing I wanted to do was do police work. I actually didn't even want to be a cop. My sister signed me up for the test. I was like, they're not going to take me. There's no way they're going to take me with my criminal record. And then I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. And I gave it a shot, and they took me because they needed cops at the time. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. But I didn't like cops growing up my whole life. There was not one male influence in my life that liked cops. There was not one. There was not one. My sister started dating a cop almost right before I became a cop. They got married, and he helped me through the process. He helped me, and he wasn't a high-ranking individual. He didn't know anybody. He was just a guy that did the job, a good guy. And he taught me the right things, and he taught me how to be a productive member of society and not a punk in the street, which I thought I was for most of my life.
I think there's a lot of entitlement there that, it's indicative of the society we've become. It's like, again, people think it's a negotiation now with the cops. Okay. Remember back years ago days, Chris Rock had these videos of what not to do when a cop pulls you over. How not to get fucked up, and it's like, whatever happened to that thinking? It's like people think that now if you can do whatever you want, you can negotiate with the cop. It's your choice whether you want to get arrested or not. It's like, what has society become of? There's no longer the thought that if I do something stupid, if I fight with a cop, I'm gonna get fucked up. Okay, people, it just doesn't make any sense. Do people understand that cops have the legal authority to send you to the hospital, or worse? Yes, people, we have the legal authority to do that to you. Okay, it's completely stupid for you to escalate an encounter with the cops. Okay, why would you argue with the man who has the gun on him and the legal authority to put your ass in the hospital? Okay, why would you do it? Okay, save that stuff for the courts. Okay, again, I mentioned earlier that the burden of proof is on us, and I mean by us the legal system, all the parts of the justice system. Okay, it's on us. Okay, all right. There's the system. This guy, this case was dropped. Okay, and again, if he had complied, he would have been brought back, and they would have discovered that he's not the guy. Okay, all right. Too many people have been brainwashed into thinking that cops are out there locking up everybody for every innocent person and oppressing people and all that bullshit, and this is the byproduct. Okay, this is the byproduct. People now think if I get stopped by a cop, he's gonna lock me up for doing something I didn't do, and there's no chance for me. No, people, no. But John also mentioned getting rid of disbanding narco, and I'm gonna say that's untenable. And the reason why is because the communities themselves, the same communities that scream police brutality, are the same communities that the silent majority in those communities are asking, hey, why aren't the cops doing something about those dealers across the street? Well, those are the same people going to community council meetings and putting pressure on COs and whoever to do something about this. Okay, the problem here is that the job is the executives on the NYPD are in between a rock and a hard place, and to get out of that rock and a hard place, they sell you, the cop, out. Okay, they're stuck between putting order in the communities and the wealthy progressive elitists who don't live in reality. They don't live in the outer boroughs. They live in fancy houses, in fancy apartments that cost millions of dollars or however much in Manhattan, and they don't face the reality of what happens when police are no longer proactive on the streets. Okay, so the job is stuck between that, and you know what they do? They tell you to get it done. Okay, they put the pressure on you to get it done. Okay, and nobody's gonna tell the inspector or the chief, this can't be done on that time. Nobody's gonna tell them no. Okay, they're gonna push it on down to you to figure the shit out on your own. Okay, and when you figure the shit out on your own, and you get and things go sideways, it's on you. It's not on them. But that's how they get through the system. Otherwise, it's untenable. If the progressives don't want you to police and they've handcuffed us, and certainly in the arrest process with the diaphragm law, you've been handcuffed. There is no way you're telling me you can arrest a resisting perp without having a squad of guys with you in order to do it and not get the perp hurt, or you yourself getting hurt in trying to arrest him. Okay, there's no way to provide law and order in a situation where progressives have tied your hands, okay, without them selling you the boots on the ground out. Okay, the system is designed to feed the beast, and that you know who they're feeding the beast with? You, the blue shirt on the streets. Okay, so it's untenable, and I'm also going to push back also on giving these guys charges for the radio, because I think we need to find out the circumstances that led them to stop him, that led to that encounter first. Again, things happen, and I think the problem with us blaming them so much for the radio, and without finding out the full situation, is that a lot of the haters, right? They're going to say, "Oh well, this escalated because they didn't have their radio and they couldn't call for help." Well, my point to that is, again, are cops now supposed to call a squad, the entire squad over to make an arrest? Because if that's the case, then you shouldn't be partnered with just one guy. Cops should be driving around in cars of regularly patrol cars with 4 guys in it. Okay, because you're not making an arrest without 4 extra guys with you.
Listen, these are great points, and we're all affected by this. I think the reality is, if you're a cop, active, retired, NYPD, or anywhere in this nation, you're affected by this, right? You feel it. You've been in this situation. You understand it. You know, I get it. People say you have to be professional and you're trained. Yes, but cops are human too. And when you're in a situation where you're in battle, you're engaged in a physical confrontation, things go haywire. You're going to say things that you didn't mean to say. And it's just part of it, right? That cop is under a lot of stress. He has to figure out communication. He's on the phone. He's got this annoying lady yapping away in his ear, and while his partner's trying to control that subject. And yes, training does help, but those are volatile situations. And sometimes people have to understand there's mitigating factors of why people lose it. And you have to understand, you got to give cops should have some room for error, right? The kick to the ass. Okay. That's stupid. I get it, but it really didn't cause the guy injury. I don't think he should be terminated for it. Maybe a discussion. But what led to that? What's important? What led to that? was bad planning. It's bad planning by the leadership, by the team going out with not the proper tools that they need, which is communication, which it was what leads to mistakes. And that's why, Marlon, when you say the job, I often say, who is the job? The job is people. The job is leadership. And you said it, the job, they. You kept saying they. They. When we say they, we're talking about the leadership. And that's why I said on a prior episode, I said it numerous times, I believe there are a certain amount of casualties that the job, and I say the job, the leadership is aware that the NYPD will lose to either termination or potentially prosecution. And they just don't give a shit because it's about their own self-needs and self-promotion. Because if they did care that Sergeant Eric Duran is now a criminal and they can't even associate with him anymore, they would stop and they would seize intrusive police work until they figure out how to protect every other cop on the street. But no, in my opinion, there's a certain percentage every year that they're willing to sacrifice to get the job done. I'm sure they know they're going to push for the numbers, and I don't know if it's 1% or half of a 1% that they're going to lose because they're pushing for intrusive police work in a system where there's no support for these guys. So shame on the leadership. That's why I always say the leadership is the job. Who's the job? The job is the leadership. It's Michael Petrie, that jellyfish that's the chief of department. Who's the job? Tiny Kinsella, who's the first deputy commissioner. Who's the job? Holly, who was in charge of narcotics, who allowed this to happen. They're the job. That's why the job sucks. That's why these guys are in these positions, because the job is failed leadership that puts them in the situation to become casualties. Daniel Pantaleo, casualty. Hugh Barry, casualty. Sergeant Eric Duran, casualty. And these two guys may be the next casualty. Are you going to let it happen to you? But even after this video, there are cops that are going to strap their boots on today that are in plain clothes where they're working borough crime or they're doing narcotics, and they're going to go out there and they're going to do the same thing that these guys did. There are cops, I guarantee you, John and Marlon, there are cops that are going to go out there today, as we speak, that are going to be on WhatsApp and say, fuck those guys. It won't happen to me. They don't know what they're talking about. I know how to handle myself. Good luck. Good luck. Because if your only communication is WhatsApp, you're going to be wishing that you listen to us. I'm telling you right now, you go out there and you use your radio. Forget this WhatsApp. Forget that type of communication. Absolutely ridiculous. If you let the leadership put you in that position, prepare to be the next casualty.
Yeah, dude. I mean, there's a lot of points there. One, I know a couple of people in the chat was saying I would never go out there after what happened to Duran. Yeah, I think that's one. That's one point I agree. I'm not saying like, oh, I'm stopping this, but I'm not going out there rushing out into bad situations. I'm 100% never going out without my radio. It's not happening. It is not happening. They weren't the undercovers. There was no reason for them to not having that communication failed them. And it might not have been the initial escalation from the scene, but it certainly escalated that scene. It certainly put them in a bad spot. The escalation came from that individual. He escalated it into a physical confrontation. It wasn't the lack of radios that escalated into that. But later on, the decisions that were made and the breakdown in the thought process came from them not being able to communicate, not be able to get help. And so that's there. The other thing is, Marlon, you're 100% right, dude. Diaphragm law, two people can no longer place an individual into handcuffs. You saw how hard it was for them. It took almost 7 minutes for them to get him in handcuffs. And these are big guys, dude. These guys are not small guys. But that guy was a strong guy, bro. He was fighting with them. They could not get a hold of him, man. And that is everything to do with the training of the NYPD and the diaphragm law. There is no way to train around the diaphragm law. So you're 100% right. If what is the tactic to place people in handcuff that are resisting arrest? And if the tactic is we need 5 guys, or one to stretch out each of his arms and one to stretch out each of his legs and then someone to cuff him, then there should be 5 guys rolling around at all times. Whether you got to put them in 2 cars to follow around each other, you're absolutely right. So it does take 4 guys. The other issue is this. I said that I would disband narco, and Marlon, you said it's not a reality because they need it. And I totally agree with that statement. However, by not disbanding them, what you're doing is doing exactly what Eric said, is all right, well, look, we're going to go out here and we're going to do this, and we're going to lose a lot of guys because of it. We're going to lose a lot of guys. A lot of guys are going to go to jail. A lot of guys are going to get fired. A lot of guys are going to get their lives destroyed. But that's just what we have to do to keep up the perception that the politics of New York City is actually working and they believe in public safety. And so I wouldn't go along with that lie. You know, that's how I've been living my life this last 4 years, and it's costing me a lot of money and a lot of heartache, but that's what it is. You know, let the lie come into the world, let it flourish, but not through me. It's not going to happen under my watch. I'm disbanding them. Nearly every CompStat chief of department, Mike LePetri, says where crime spikes, you know what he says? We got a crime spike in this area. You know what he says? We need more B&B in this area. He turns to narco. We need more buy and bust in that area. Why does he say he needs more buy and bust area if you've ever got a rash of burglaries, you got a rash of car break-ins, you got a rash of robberies? Why is he saying that? Why is he going to this thing that the politicians don't want through their harm reduction plans? We don't believe in locking people up for minor drug buying and minor drug dealing and minor drug use. We don't believe in that. Why is he saying that? Because the only theory that's ever been proven effective in public safety is the broken windows theory of policing. Whereas if you go after the minor crimes, you will stop the larger crimes from happening. So he knows that if you go into that area and you do buy and bust in that area, you're going to get guns off the street. You're going to get perps off the street that are going to rob people. You're going to displace crime totally from that area. Houses aren't going to get broken into. Cars aren't going to get broken into. Cars aren't going to get stolen. So anytime there's a crime spike, what they do is they ultimately fall back to broken windows policing. And that broken windows policing at its core is buy and bust. It's getting that guy for that $10 nickel bag or excuse me, that $10 bag of Coke or that nickel bag of Coke or that nickel bag of heroin, because you're stopping. First of all, you're showing presence in that area, which is omnipresence, and it deters crime in that immediate area right there. But then you're also involved in the people that are involved in also the dealing of guns, the shooting of each other over these gun rivalry, these gang rivalries. And so what's happening is he's saying, yeah, go do buy more buy and bust in that area. Screw Sergeant Duran. He was just one of those casualties. Screw these two detectives. They're just two of those casualties. It doesn't matter. We just need you to get it done. Just like Terry Monahan told you, right when the diaphragm law came out and everyone and their mother said it's impossible to not break the diaphragm law. Like even here, he's breaking the diaphragm law. It's impossible to put a resisting perpetrator in handcuffs without putting pressure to their back or the chest. It's impossible. Yet that law is on the books today, and it's a misdemeanor for cops to use it. No one's been charged for it yet, but this might be the politically correct moment. We don't know. We'll see. They're just waiting for the politically correct time and the politically correct narrative to use it. But what he told you after that, when everyone was like, how are we supposed to do this? Everything we do is going to be a misdemeanor. Every single cop that goes out every time someone resists arrest is going to violate the diaphragm law. What did he tell you? We can't be afraid. We can't be afraid. And that's what LePetri's telling you. And it's not that he's saying you can't be afraid. He's saying we just have to lose some of you. Some of you guys are just not worth it. Some of your careers aren't just worth it. And we're going to continue to hang you under this political regime that is New York City. I'm saying expose that political regime. Mike Smith asked today on X, he tagged all of us in it, why are people so fake in LinkedIn? Because that is policing right now. The people in leadership, they're fake. They're phony. The things that they're telling you, the things that they're telling on the news cameras, they are not saying to their children at dinner. They're not saying to their guys in private. They are not having real conversations publicly. Expose the fact. And I'm going to go to that community council meeting, and you know what I'm going to tell everyone in the community? I'm getting rid of narcotics because you don't want it. You can't look at police work. You don't understand it. And you're telling me that people shouldn't be arrested for $10 bag of Coke. What are we supposed to do when the guy resists arrest? You want the arrests, but you don't want the reality of policing. This is the reality of policing. I'm going to put it back on you. Build out that public safety agency that you want to see. Let me know how you want us to arrest perps that resist arrest. Let me know when you think that we should fight to put people in arrest. Let me know when you think we should allow people to run off the street. Let me know what type of crimes you should be enforced. Ultimately, this is your world. This is what you voted for. This is what you want. I'm giving it to you. I'm giving it to you. Why am I going to go out and do the work that you don't want? And all you guys in narcotics, I said it. The job today should have everyone and their mother who's in a narcotics bureau should be put in a transfer in. whether you're going to some bullshit detail or whether you're going back to patrol. Do you want your pension, or do you just want to continue to get used like a pawn? Do you want to get used and hold out like Sal Greco's doing on his show? You give all your money, all your heartache, all your time, all your blood, all your sweat, all your tears, and you're broke at the end of the day, and then you get pimped out in your own name. That's what you want to do? Go do it.
Yeah, well said. Well said. How hard is it for the job, the mayor, to let people know that you don't have a right to resist arrest? Is that so fucking hard to tell people? You know, what's so hard about that? You know, you by not explaining this clearly to the public, you continue to let an atmosphere fester where people think that they could do whatever they want, that they can resist arrest, and by doing so, you're escalating these confrontations, and you're making things worse. You're making it worse for the cops, and you're making the public think that you're creating more public outrage. Okay, which is exactly what, by the way, the diaphragm law does. It creates a greater perception of police brutality, because every arrest now turns into a melee. Okay, well, the cops shouldn't punch him so much. Well, again, what should they do? Should they use jujitsu? No, you can't do that because of the diaphragm law. So what are they gonna do? What are you gonna do? It devolves into cops using strikes to get compliance, and it just looks ugly. And I don't understand why leadership hasn't seen how much of a detriment this has been to the arrest tactics, and how it puts cops at a tactical disadvantage when you're arresting someone. People need to, the administration needs to clearly let people know. Okay, in fact, I think at this point we need to have like public messages like the old days. You cannot resist arrest. You do not have the legal right to resist arrest. Okay, it's simple as that.
Well, I tell you what, Marlon, I don't think that the leadership is not aware. I think they're highly aware. I think they know exactly what they're doing. I think it's completely intentional. I think, and this is why I say, I think it's deep rooted within the leadership that there are a certain amount of casualties per year. They know that they are going to lose a percentage. It's easy, right? The NYPD has analytics for every category. Buy and bust, there's a category. They have analytics for it. Use of force cases, that's documented on a threat resistance injury report. Every form of policing is documented, and there are analytics on it. So I'm sure there are analytics on how many cops are terminated a year in regards to intrusive police work, or how many actually have faced the DA's office. And now the new category would be prosecution. How many are actually getting sentenced and go to jail? I'm sure you can look at how many cops were terminated in 2024 for use of force cases. 2023, we can look back. The job, and I say the job, the leadership, does analytics on every category. So they are aware. It's completely intentional. They push cops out there. You're right, John. Intrusive police work is the bedrock to the safety of New York City. It is the foundation. It's the fabric to keep people safe. There's no doubt about it. But every time the leadership puts out cops to do intrusive police work, they're putting them out there to hang to dry. They did it to Sergeant Eric Duran. They did it to Daniel Pantaleo. They did it to Hugh Barry. They did it to you, John. They did it to me. They did it to Marlon. Anyone that was out there doing police work, they put you in a situation. The only reason we are sitting here is because we are lucky. And the reality, someone put a great comment here. If that perpetrator, because he was resisting arrest, since he was bleeding profusely, if he would have bled out and died, those two cops right now would be on trial for murder, and they'd be fighting for their lives. They'd be fighting for their freedom. And they potentially still could be fighting for their freedom. But there's no doubt about it, they would be on charges for murder. So think about it. For the cops that are out there today, you're out there doing intrusive police work. You're doing buy and bust. Because that jellyfish, Mike LaPetri, is still going to send you out there. Even with these two detectives that are now on public trial. And I said public trial. I'm out in the West right now. I'm on the West Coast. And everyone's talking about it, not just in New York City. Mike LaPetri, that jellyfish, and also his leadership is going to send you out there to do that same intrusive police work. He's going to send you out there to do that knowing that you may be the next Sergeant Eric Duran, and he sleeps just fine at night because he's got his stars on his shoulder. They're all sleeping just fine. So, Marlon, don't ever think for a second that they're not aware. They are aware, it's intentional, and they know exactly what they're doing. And you're right, John. They put them out there to do buy and bust. Why? Because buy and bust is broken windows. It stops smaller crimes. It leads to arrest, leads to information. Why? You debrief perpetrators, you get more information that leads, it stops crime. The presence, the omnipresence, it's a deterrent. It displaces crime. It moves crime. It stops crime. But if you're out there and they send you out there to do buy and bust, you have to ask yourself, am I going to be the next Sergeant Eric Duran? Could I? Yeah, you could be. You sure could be. Could I be those detectives right now? Could you be in that situation? And if you think it can't happen to you, you better wake the fuck up, honestly. You better wake up. And unfortunately, I hope that you don't wake up and the bars are closing and you're in jail and it's too late. Because remember, no one's coming to visit you. I used to say it often. When you die in the NYPD, and I don't just mean actually literally die, figuratively speaking, if you die in the NYPD because you're terminated or you're jailed or you're out sick, no one calls you. They forget about you. And believe me, Sergeant Eric Duran, in a few months, you ask some of those cops right now that are out there, what is Sergeant Eric Duran's name? I bet you not all of them will remember his name. He will be forgotten super quick. It's sad, but it's the reality. So if you're out there today doing buy and bust, ask yourself who you want to be.
And you know, the thing is, like, everybody loves police work, even all the haters that are on here today. You know, everybody loves police work. They just don't like the reality of police work. You know, this video has been going viral all over social media. Even Sal Greco, who calls for every cop to be fired, is showing this video of an NYPD mounted cop stopping a woman who was just involved in a robbery, right? And the difference between this arrest and the arrests that go good or look good and an arrest like what you saw in the liquor store is just that the suspect complied. If the suspect didn't comply, that body camera video that we're watching now is going to look really ugly. You're going to hear the cop breathing heavy. You're going to see him throwing strikes. You're going to see them falling on the floor. It's not going to look good anymore. And then we all just going to turn a blind eye to it. We're just going to go, oh, yeah, I don't really like that. But because the suspect complied in this situation, this is good police work. Police work is being judged on whether or not the suspect you stop is actually a coherent, rational person that also doesn't want to escalate the situation further. If you encounter an individual that is experiencing a mental episode or is actively resisting arrest, that's not the kind of police work we want. Well, it might not be the kind of police work you want, but it's the kind of police work you need, and it's the kind of police work you're calling for. You just don't like to see the reality of it. So, I mean, watch this video. I mean, it's yeah. Does it look like it's flawless? Does it look like great police work? Sal Greco put out on the show, this is how it's done. Yeah, and and it's also, that's how it's done in the liquor store. That's how it's done. What's the matter? You just can't handle it, or what? You were the cop that stood in the background when the other guys were doing the job. Which one was it? Because I don't know what you mean. This is how you do it, and this is a great job. This is no different than any other type of police work. So only difference here is the suspect complies. Let's watch this body camera video.
Stop! I didn't take my bag! Stop! Please stop! Stop! Stop running! Stop running! Stop running! I said stop running! Stop running! Stop! No. Sir, I got the horse. I got it. I got my horse. I'm putting cuffs on you. You're being detained. Okay? We're going to figure it out.
She complied. So it's great police work. It's great police work. She complied. So we could celebrate it. We could put it up there on social media. Everyone's going to make these cool LinkedIn posts. This is the profession. This is the honorable thing that I love. This cop did an amazing job. It's like, yeah, he went after the perpetrator, which a lot of the guys out there in the streets are doing. They go after perpetrators, but he didn't do anything differently that stopped her from not physically actively resisting. She just complied. She was just smart enough to be like, you know what? I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. So she didn't, so we celebrate this and we turn a blind eye to the reality of it. And the reality of policing is very ugly. It's a very ugly thing. It is something that tests everyone's soul. And it's things that people don't want to see. The public doesn't want to see it. You even have cops in this soft generation that can't handle watching someone get punched in the face, even though they're making a situation dangerous for everyone and they're risking everybody's life in the situation. They can't handle it. They can't handle watching a terrorist who threw 2 IEDs get tackled to the ground and punched in the face by a cop. Oh, no, I didn't like that. Darren Porcher didn't like it. Oh, you didn't like it, Darren? You didn't like it, Sal? Yeah, you know why you didn't like it? Because you would never do it. That's why.
Yeah. And again, I want to point out on that show, even Eric Sanders was saying that wasn't resisting arrest. Okay. So, and he was a cop too. So I don't understand how the 2 cops on the show barely talk about resisting, and the civilian who has no police experience is the one who actually brought up the point.
Can I just correct him on? Eric Sanders was paid by the police department and wore a uniform. I would never say he's a cop. He is the Timu Eric Adams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you see in that video, guys, when you don't resist, okay, you get to go home and you get to fight another day in court, right? And more than likely, you get a nice check from the government too for their mistake. See how easy it is? See how the benefits outweigh fighting with the cop and possibly going to the hospital or worse. It's that simple, and it's really not that complicated. Okay, we don't resist, and you get to go home and fight another day. Okay, to go back to Sal again, Sal, you're gonna have to pick, man. You can't. You're gonna have to pick with these outrage bait videos. They're gonna get you clout, but at the same time, you're gonna certainly lose your police audience with that, And I just think the longest Sal's in bed with Sanders and the Guardians and that side is the DPA goes into the sunken cost fallacy, which means you got to get more outrage bait and less measured responses to these things. Okay, and it just doesn't help cops. Okay, it doesn't help the profession when you have cops who know better, right? Who know better, and yet are helping to push the same narratives being pushed by leftists and the BLM crowd. That just does not help any cop on the street. Okay.
Shout out to Modern Samurai, brother. Thanks for being an awesome friend to the network, man. Another $20 coffee donuts. Great. I think this is a great statement. You definitely know your stuff, brother. OCCB was responsible for almost 50% of the department's arrest. Think about that. So you can understand why these chiefs want them to do buy and bust and targeted enforcement. Detective Bureau took over OCCB and bounced many detective squads to catch patrol cases. Yeah, that's definitely because of manpower, right? So I think that's a great point. Definitely the manpower issues is a factor, which is something you spoke about earlier, John, why cops didn't even respond fast enough to that 911 call. It just shows the state that the NYPD is in. And the NYPD is hemorrhaging. It's just absolutely terrible. And buy and bust, narcotics, anti-crime, all these units are really a huge force when it comes to intrusive police work. Because the patrol guys are just, they're undermanned, understaffed at this point. They're strapped down with jobs. They don't even have time to actually just do preliminary investigations. So it's heavily weighted on units like narcotics and also borough crime and public safety to do the intrusive police work. The weight is on them. So they're constantly pushed out there in an environment where they don't have the proper tools. They're handicapped at this point. So shame on those chiefs. That's why I say shame on that leadership. It's intentional, it's deliberate that they put these cops out there knowing damn well that they might be the next casualty. And how do they sleep at night? It's pure evil. It's pure evil because they know damn well that jellyfish, Mike LaPetri, sending these guys out there doing buy and bust and knowing damn well that they could be the next prosecution. Terrence Monahan, shame on him. He knew damn well with that Kermit the Frog voice talking about the cops, we can't be scared. We can't be? The diaphragm law has caused the cops to use tactics that are far more brutal than before to try to control another subject, another human being, by not pinning their hips or pinning their shoulders, by putting compression on the diaphragm, is inhibiting them and handicapping them and forcing them to utilize more brutalized tactics, which include strikes, which no one wants to see. But I'm sorry, too bad. It's part of policing. Maybe if people would comply, you wouldn't have to see that ugly thing that you don't want to see exist. It's like the Matrix, where it's like, wow, is this really the world? Yes, this is the world. Where if you don't comply with the police, if you fight with the police, guess what? They fight back, and they sure should. And that perpetrator that was resisting was fighting. If anyone thinks he wasn't fighting and thinks that's passive, you need to wake up. You need to wake up. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it really is sad at this point. But my message to the cops are out there right now. Please, don't let this be you. I was all about doing intrusive police work, and I got out because I was lucky. But how much longer are you want to play with your own luck? Because the luck is running out. I think I was the test subject. They started targeting me, and I made it out in time. I was able to retire. But the cops on the target now, they're facing prosecution, and they're going to jail. Sorry to promise you. It's sad, but he's not going to be the last because we suffer from this condition of it won't happen to me. These chiefs don't give a shit about you because when you go to your funeral, figuratively speaking, if you go to jail, that is the death for a short period of time. They are not coming to visit you. Criminal association is not allowed. They will not associate you with you because you will be a criminal. So don't think that they care about you. And for the commanding officers that push you to get numbers, remember, you work at a hotel. I used to say the precincts are a hotel. You're a permanent resident, but the commanding officers, they're guests. They're there temporarily. It's a short stay. And when they leave and you're stuck with the investigation, how many of those commanders are going to call you back and say, hey, you need my help? Good luck. Good luck, because they want to move up that ladder and they want to get those stars. And if they want to play the game and get promoted, they have to forget about you. They have to play that game. Because if they care about you and try to get in front of something and help you out, they won't be promoted. So who do you think they're going? Which option do you think they'll pick? Get in front, have the bus run over them, or they're going to make sure that they get promoted and have the bus run over you and you be the casualty? So think about it. Modern Samurai, thank you so much for your contributions. Thank you to our chat here. We appreciate it. And the trolls, awesome. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being a fan. 2 hours and 22 minutes into it. Like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate it. Hey, listen, if you like our take on this, great. If you don't like it, you need to ask yourself if you're being honest. Why isn't there an outrage by the residents of New York City? Why this perpetrator is escalating the situation? Why do people have such a bias and disdain for police? But no one's saying, damn, why are you resistant with the police? Why do you put the police situation fight? Why do you put the police in a situation where they're vulnerable? Nobody cares about the police. It's damn sad.
You know, look, I think to be fair, though, I think the outrage is that like he didn't do anything. Like he didn't actually do anything for the encounter. And I understand it. But like we have to understand in society that like do not resist cop. Like, what do you think's going to happen? It doesn't matter if you're black, if you're Puerto Rican, if you're Italian, if you're Irish. It doesn't matter if you're West Indian. It doesn't matter your ethnicity, dude. You're a man. Act like a man. You know, I mean, watch every video of a wise guy getting locked up. These guys are stone cold killers. Did you ever see them wrestle with the police? No. You ever see them run from the police? No. What'd they do? The cops showed up. They put their hands behind their back. Right? Why? Because they knew they were going to get shot. They were going to get beat up, and they were ultimately going to get locked up anyway. So they didn't deal with it. Instead, what we have is we have a culture of people who this is their bread and butter. You think the attorneys and the BLM, you think they weren't happy when they see this? They love this. You know, they're probably sad this guy didn't get killed. They're probably sad he didn't bleed out, that didn't cut his femoral artery. They're probably sad about it because there was more money there was more grift, and there was more outrage to be outraged around. So look, I don't think Sal's a bad guy. Don't misunderstand me. I just think he's a hoe. I think he's getting pimped out, and he's too stupid to see it. So that, you know, for those of you sitting in here saying I'm saying Sal, I'm not saying he's a bad guy. He's getting used, and I don't think he sees it, and he's pushing a narrative. I hope he's getting paid. That's it. I hope he's not hoeing for free. That's it. I hope you're not out there giving your ass up, tricking for fucking free. That's my thing. But you know, there's a famous case with a tennis player, and it was a case where grand larceny unit, they're out there, they're conducting an investigation. They actually have the complainant with them. They have a sketch of the perpetrator. It's an identical look to tennis player James Blake. So detectives out there. He's with the complainant. The complainant says, that's him right there. So now he has probable cause. He has a fingered ID. He has the guy matching the description of the tennis player. He's looking at it. I personally saw, I don't have it with me, but I had the sketch with me at the time. The sketch was identical. There was no way it wasn't James Blake. Now, not only do you have the sketch matching, you have the complainant with you saying that's him. That's a positive ID. That's it. It's a positive ID. Detective rushes up to go arrest James Blake. I was in internal affairs at the time, and because it was such a political driven narrative, the truth was when we got the video was that the detective takes James Blake down to the ground immediately, handcuffs him, no strikes thrown, nothing. James Blake doesn't really resist. He's confused. He's scared. They identify him. He's on his way to a media appearance. And the guy's like, oh my God, this isn't him. This isn't the guy we're looking for. And he shows him, and it's all on video. He shows him the thing. He shows him the wanted flyer. He tells him what happened. He explains it to him. He goes, no worry, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for doing your job. Gives him a pound and a hug, and he leaves. Goes to the news appearance, tells him what happened. They're like, they did that because you're black. I'm blacker than James Blake. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. And they immediately came out. Deputy Commissioner of Internal Affairs at the time, Joe Resnick, was like, I want him suspended. I want him suspended. I'm like, all right, boss, I'll call the group that's going to go out there. I call the CO of the Force Investigation Unit. I'm like, look, I don't know. This guy's saying he wants him suspended already. He's like, how am I suspended? I didn't even investigate him. I didn't investigate what happened. I was like, I'm just letting you know. I watched the video. I don't see anything wrong with it. It looks totally legit.
I just want to say that guy's a jerk off, John. By the way, that guy's a jerk off.
Well, that's a show for another day. So he, you know, ultimately, what happens? You get told from a deputy commissioner because the mayor told them that cop's getting suspended. Cop gets suspended. They destroy that cop's career for years. The guy did nothing wrong. So someone asked in the chat, what's going to happen here? I think a lot worse. I think, you know, they possibly get fired. And I think that right now, the district attorney, Eric Gonzalez, he's looking at what to charge them with. He's looking at it, and I think he's been doing it for the last few days. They're reviewing that video to see what criminality they're going to charge him with. But this is just a reminder. So that was that scenario with James Blake, and that was a case of mistaken identity. The cops believe they have probable cause. If James Blake now started actively resisting arrest, that detective would have deployed force. You know, the fact that James Blake wasn't struck was because he didn't fight back. He just put his hands behind his back. They figured it out. He went on his way. Nothing happened. So he was how the news was reporting it, though, at the time.
That arrest here in New York City, the former tennis player was outside his Midtown Manhattan hotel when police tackled him, mistaking him for somebody who was wanted for identity theft. So there you see the takedown. The police commissioner and the mayor have both apologized for the arrest. In a statement, Deputy Commissioner Stephen Davis said, quote, the NYPD's Internal Affairs Bureau interviewed James Blake last night. The NYPD is releasing video footage from the September 9th incident outside of the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Manhattan. A copy of the video was provided to Mr. Blake's attorney. The investigation is still ongoing.
So you see how that was painted. The department comes out and apologizes. But they don't explain it. Hey, my guy was doing his job. That's what I expect my guys to do. How did they want that detective to act when they thought they had probable cause? What did they want him to do? Oh, hi, sir. Oh, I'm gonna place you in handcuffs, okay, sir? You know, a lot of times the de-escalation, and like Marlon said, the longer these scenarios go on, the worse they are. Getting someone in handcuffs is the de-escalation. It's over. We're all safe, right? Unless that person starts biting you. It's a different story.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of being very aggressive in the beginning. Now, before you when you about to cuff them, okay? I'm not about like you tell them you're under arrest. If you're under arrest, we're going to quickly move and throw the cuffs on you, because again, I feel the longer these incidents, it's better to get them quickly in cuffs rather than, things drag on. If there's a fight, if there's a melee, there's a greater likelihood of me getting hurt, you getting hurt, or me even possibly having to deploy deadly physical force. And none of us want that. So again, these guys have to get into cuffs as quickly as possible, and you have to take control of the situation as quickly as possible, right? And somebody pointed out this shooting happened yesterday, right? 15-year-old boy killed. From all accounts, he was a bystander in the park, Roy Wilkins Park in Queens, right? And the thing is Reverend McCall, we know you're probably watching this right now, right? Are you going to be, should we expect a press conference for this? Should we expect pressure on the police for this? Okay. Because the thing is, the more you remove tools from police, the more you take away efficient tactics from police, right? The more you dissuade cops from being proactive, is the more incidents like this happen in these neighborhoods, in the neighborhoods that you claim to represent, okay? And who does this benefit, right? Who does this benefit, okay? This is why a lot of those same neighborhoods are shitholes, okay? All right? And I saw Reverend McCall yesterday talking about it, and I'm like, dude, you want me to think you actually work for the community? Oh, as soon as people in these communities are successful, what do they want to do? They want to get the hell out of these communities. Okay, we need to understand that by not being honest with the public, not being transparent with the public, and by continually denigrating police and taking away the tools they need to efficiently do their job, is the more these neighborhoods will get harmed, and the more they'll devolve into shitholes that nobody wants to live in. Okay, and that's not beneficial for everybody, and it's certainly not beneficial for the overall city.
I'll say this: you don't get to fight with cops and then people are shocked that you got hurt. If you fight with cops, in my opinion, if you fight personally at all, right, you should try to avoid fights by all costs. But if you fight with a cop and you get injured, as far as I'm concerned, you cause your own injury. Because when you get yourself into a fight, you're asking yourself to be injured. If you comply, just as John gave that scenario, and I remember that incident very well with the tennis player, he complied. And he was taken down to the It wasn't a very aggressive tackle. It was taken down because it's just tactically advantageous. He was fine. He wasn't injured because he complied. And so why are we not putting the emphasis on the subjects, expressive interest, the perpetrators? When you resist arrest, you cause your own injury. Not passive, active resisting. Because passive resistance doesn't lead to injury, right? Cops that handcuff people that are passive resistance rarely cause any injury, or someone that complies. But active resistance, you are causing your own injury. There's no doubt about it. You put yourself in a situation, and again, Johnny brought up a good point. We don't know if there was alcohol induced, or if the guy had any type of anemia or something, of why he was bleeding profusely from a minor cut. We don't know how big the cut is, but just seemed to be bleeding a lot for that situation. So we don't know what type of condition. So if you're not someone who's constantly out there training and your cardio is not up to par, or you have medical conditions and you're fighting with the police, you're putting your life in your own hands. But it's become this thing where it's a phenomenon where it's kind of expected. People are expected at this point to be defiant towards the police, right? Because I always say policing is the most tangible form of government. So you're being anti-government by fighting with the police and anti the system. But in reality, you're causing your own injury. So again, I'm speaking to the leadership of the NYPD. We often hear the job sucks. The job is down the shitter. It's in a tailspin right now. You are the job. How do you sleep at night knowing that you're putting these men and women out there in situations where they're going to be casualties? You don't have to worry. It's hands off for you. And I had numerous bosses in the past say, Eric, why are you out there doing this work? Let the cops do it. Because it's okay. As long as you move up the ladder, you're free from injury. But you're putting these guys out there as casualties. And I said, I couldn't do that. I can't ask men and women to go out there and do something that I won't do myself. So you, LePetri, the Jellyfish, or anyone else in leadership right now, how dare you ask your cops to go out there and do stuff that you won't do yourself right now, and to put yourself in a situation where you're going to be the casualty. If you're not willing to put yourself, don't put other people in that situation. And so for the cops that are out there right now doing God's work, God bless you. God bless you for having it. Honestly, I feel terrible that the cops have such a good heart that they're still willing to go out there and fight crime knowing that they could be the next Eric Duran. It's either that or you're just going out there blindly and stupidly. John, what do you think?
Juju says, here we go. Next, we'll hear the victim had drugs in his system without any evidence, or he's a gang member. So, all right, no one's saying any of that. What I'm saying is he was potentially drunk on the scene. He's going into a liquor store in the middle of the day, and that might be a cause of him not knowing that they were police officers. What I'm saying, it was a really bad scenario, and they met at the wrong times in their life. Ultimately, him, as well as the detectives, were failed by their supervisors. That's what I'm saying. If you look at it, the detectives believe that this individual is a perpetrator. They believe they have probable cause to an effect arrest. They confront him. If he is drunk, if he is incoherent, maybe that is why he began to resist arrest and didn't act appropriately and wasn't able to appropriately explain himself, and why he continued to fight for 7 minutes and 57 seconds while they said 57 times some form of stop resisting, stop being violent, I'm trying to help you, put your hands behind your back. 57 times he could not comprehend what they were saying. That's all I'm saying, is it might have just been a factor. Does that mean that, oh, you're a terrible person because you were out drinking in the middle of the day? No, it's probably not a good thing. I don't think you should be. I don't think you should be going to the liquor store in the middle of the day, and I don't think you should be drunk headed into a liquor store in the middle of the day. But obviously, the guy in the liquor store knew him by name. The guy in the liquor store was trying to calm him down too, telling him, relax, bro. Just put your hands behind your back. Stop. What I'm saying is that it was a situation that was a failure from the get-go. Ultimately, the NYPD supervisors failed everybody at that scene. I'm not demonizing the guy for drinking. You're entitled. You want to go drink today in the middle of the day and go walk down the block and go to the liquor store and get yourself some more alcohol? Go right ahead. Maybe that's the reason. I'm not saying he was drunk, but there was certainly a lot of blood, and it stopped, which leads me to believe it was a superficial wound, which what do we know about people when they're drinking? You bleed more. Thins your blood, right? That's the only thing we were saying. We're not saying the guy's a gang member. We're not saying he had drugs in his system. We're saying maybe that is the reason he started fighting, that is and him fighting escalated the situation. What I'm saying, it was a really bad scenario and nobody's looking at it. I'm not trying to demonize the guy. It shouldn't have happened. I said it 1,000 times. Everyone on here said it 1,000 times. It shouldn't have happened. I'm just not ready to crucify these two detectives over it. I am ready to disband the entire narco unit. I am ready for all of their supervisors to get their ass ripped. I personally believe everyone that was engaged in this WhatsApp thing should get charges, even if there was nothing nefarious going on with that WhatsApp group. The fact that you're running around on the streets of New York without radios, every single one of you should get suspended and charges. That's how I feel about it. But I'm not ready to throw these two guys in jail. I'm just not. I think it's wrong. I think people don't know what they want. They love policing in one aspect. When people don't resist, they hate it when people resist arrest. It's wrong. It's wrong. But look, I'm not inspections. I'm not the oversight. I don't know why one guy had a vest, why one guy didn't have his vest. I don't care. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It was a bad situation, and it ultimately falls on the leadership. Here's the mayor in New York City.
You know, I think that the first order of business that we have is the investigation into that video. And I know that that is something that is continuing. I've shared my thoughts on the fact that it is not only incredibly disturbing, but also unacceptable. And that investigation, as it continues, these two detectives have been placed on modified duty. And as we have updates in that investigation, and they are ones to share with the public, then I will do so. When it comes to delivering on the needs of any community across the city, I have confidence in the NYPD's ability to do so, because as we know, these are concerns that we can see our approach to public safety have been effective at addressing at a larger sense, but the work always continues on a day-to-day basis.
If you think there should be an increased police presence there to deal with this drug problem, because even though this is a horrific incident that we saw the video of, the underlying problem still exists.
I think what I could
happen to the people in that community who have, legitimate concerns.
I think what I'll share is that what I've heard much of in these last few days, the first concern that I've heard from so many across the community is about the health and wellness of that individual. And I am heartened to hear that he is healing at home. I think that that is where our priority has to be. And then as we address that, to also address longer standing community concerns. Absolutely.
I've got time for a few more.
Oh, you going, Eric? Oh.
Yeah. I just want to say, here we have the mayor. Think about what the mayor just said. He's not concerned with the fact. I mean, it was a great question. He's not concerned with the fact that there's a drug problem going on in communities that they're concerned with. He's concerned about the mental health and wellness of this particular individual. I think that's pretty short-sighted for a mayor. He should say, yeah, we have some serious concerns out here, and we have to balance their concerns and, of course, the citizens. But the same token, don't condemn your police until there's a full investigation. He's saying it's unnecessary. He has no experience doing any police work. Absolutely ridiculous. But I think you made a great point, John. Earlier, you made the point. If you look at that and you just replaced him with Cuomo or Eric Adams, you get the same response. If anyone thinks that Eric Adams would give a different response, well, then you weren't watching the past 4 years. And if it was Cuomo, you would get the same thing. Oh, by the way, hey, shout out to you, Joe 6899. I guess we must have got to you about that 14% body fat. He says, I just finished my morning run, and these clowns are still saying the same points as before. Laugh my ass off. Yeah, I hope that's helping you 14%. So get out there and run a little bit more. But the bottom line is this. Here's a mayor that's walking in the same step as Eric Adams and Governor Cuomo. You get the same thing. So if anyone thinks that the city has changed, oh my God, I expect what he just said is what I would expect from Eric Adams or Governor Cuomo, just in different verbatim.
Yeah, the Democrats never want to put any personal responsibility, especially in these neighborhoods, because again, if there's personal responsibility in these neighborhoods, then they'd need less government and there'd be less government reliance, and then there'd be less voting for Democrats. And the entire Democrat platform is basically, we'll give you government services. Okay, we'll give you social welfare programs. Yeah, we'll give you more shit. Okay, that's the entire plan. It's not, or you'll make yourself more productive or less reliant on government. It's not. You need Big Daddy government to fix your life in some sort.
That's right, Mom. Spot on, brother.
Yeah. And I'm gonna say about that guy possibly being inebriated, that I'm not sure if it led him to maybe not be sure these are cops. I think in all likelihood it gave him liquid courage. Okay, it gave him the liquid courage to say, nah, this is negotiable. Okay, me wanting to get arrested is it's up for debate. Okay, and again, you could drink whatever hours you want, but what do we see in certain communities and in the hood? Okay, we often see a lot of guys drinking at hours where normal people are getting jobs. Okay, right? And it's a cultural problem, and it's a larger discussion. But if you're walking around inebriated in the middle of the day, that kind of tells me that you're probably undisciplined in your own personal life. Okay, all right, and you know, again, that's a larger discussion about certain behaviors that we see in the hood that need to be spoken about publicly. And in the case with government and politicians, they will never talk about it because, heaven forbid, you in the hood, okay, gain some responsibility and take some ownership over the conditions in your own life and in your community. Because if you do, you need us less, and they don't want that. Oh, John is mute.
And he was a great interview right here. So Mondani's totally not ready for this question. Now, this is my thing with the outrage, right? Everybody's outraged over something that they can't explain. The only one that attempted that I heard like some type of explanation from was Darren Porcher, and it was factually incorrect. You know, he said the guy was passively resisting, which is factually incorrect. He was actually actively resisting. But it was the only one that could like grab onto the outrage and give an exact point of why it was bad. Listen to this reporter ask Mondani, like, what's being done and why he's outraged and like what's being done about it. Now, again, the reporter is on the side of she's outraged too and she doesn't know why, but she's grabbing on to Mondani to give her the answer of why, and he can't do it. Listen to it.
Can we get your take on the story that's making national news of police officers, the undercover police officers
in Brooklyn,
in Vlad's neighborhood, who you can see physically beating a man? Turns out this guy apparently hadn't done anything wrong. I want to get your reaction to this and what you think should be done. It's very tough to watch. We say it's disturbing, heads up, very bad, but as mayor of the city, who's in charge of the police department, what do you say about this?
It is
you and the commissioner, yeah.
It is incredibly disturbing, and it is unacceptable. What we are seeing on this video is the kind of behavior that should never be condoned. And I not only have made that clear, the police commissioner has made that clear. It's being investigated as we speak, because as New Yorkers see this, this is not what it looks like to deliver safety or justice in this city.
I know, but you know, whenever we see video like that, that's always the line. It's disturbing, it's upsetting. I think people want to hear, what are you going to do about it?
These officers have already been shifted in their duty. They've already been put on desk duty. And the point of this investigation is to ensure that we get to the entire set of facts here so that they're actually held accountable, because no one in government should be above accountability. And that includes myself as well.
So no one should be above accountability, but he can't explain what exactly they did. It's outrageous. It's unacceptable. Which portion? What part didn't you like? The part that they threw the punches that they were trained to do? Which portion of it? Couldn't explain it. He has no idea. So everyone has this outrage about it, but they're unwilling to say, well, what laws did they violate? What department policy did they violate? What department training did they violate? You know, I heard Sal say that punching is not in part of the training. I mean, I don't know what academy he went to, but it certainly wasn't the police academy, if that's what you want to say. So, you know, that's my thing. Is this is all outrage without any factual instance in it. I don't really have anything else other than, you know, people asking what I think is going to happen, and I do think that, unfortunately, I think that you know, I think the Brooklyn DA is going to look to indict these officers. That's personally what I think.
Well, I tell you right now, listen, we're 2 hours and 45 minutes into it. We beat this thing down. I think that we gave a very fair assessment, honest perspective. We all have extreme amount of police experience here. But there's no doubt in my mind, with the temperature and with the case of Sergeant Eric Durant, it set the tone. They will be indicted. I will put my last dollar on it. They will be indicted. It's sad. It's sorry. So it's unfortunate. And that's why I say to the cops that are out there right now, are you going to be the next casualty? And I hope you're not. I hope you wake up and say, I can't be doing this type of police work until we get some support. So the unions, you have to get in front of this. You have to get in front of this now. We can't be waiting in courtrooms. It's too late when the cops are already arrested, back in the courtroom. We need to get in front of this before the cops end up in the courtroom. That's my message.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they will be indicted. I can't say yet. I think we need to find out. I think as much as these DAs like to indict cops when they know they really don't have a case, and in the end, There is a chance, so I'm going to agree that there is a chance they're going to get indicted, but I can't say yet because if they really, I mean, depending on probable cause and the level that they had before, I'm not sure they can get indicted on this. You know, I mean, yeah, I mean, listen, like I said before, they made mistakes. And there's a disciplinary system in place already to scrutinize them for those mistakes they made, like the radio, like not having a radio. Okay. And if they had, there was problems with all their tactical plans. Yeah. There's already a discipline process in place. Do they need to get fired for all of this? I don't think so. I think the disciplinary process will handle all of that. I think it's an overreaction by everybody, the mayor, people who don't know shit about police work, and people who are all up in their feelings and now looking at this thing logically. And I just don't think things deserve to get that far, you know.
I think, Marlon, there's it's unfortunate, and I don't know if you'd be willing to bet on it, but I tell you right now, it's unfortunate. I do think that it's more likely they do get indicted. Yes, there's a disciplinary matrix in process. I think there are some procedural things, obviously, that were a failure, which were not having a radio. And that's a failure on the leadership. That's a failure on the team. That's a failure on the planning. But as far as the force that they used, the force was appropriate. I have no issue with those punches, those strikes. You have to deploy strikes at an active person who's resisting. Cops have a right to fight back. I have no issue with the guy telling that lady to shut up. She was quite annoying. It's absolutely ridiculous with the Right to Know Act that a cop has to be engaged in a confrontation and have to give their information out to someone who's annoying them. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know, there is room for cursing. Cops are in a volatile situation. I do think this Civilian Complaint Review Board is chopping at the bit right now. I think they're going to come after these cops. There's no doubt about it. But do I think they should be terminated? Absolutely not. That kick to the butt, was there malice in it? I think it was more frustration, emotionally driven because things went haywire, but he really didn't hurt the guy either. I don't think he stomped on his head. The punching, I think they were very mindful, very conscious and conscientious of the diaphragm law. I think it's just a failure on the system and cops. But ultimately, they did their job. There were some mistakes, but not enough to cause any termination.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I think the whole team deserves charges. I think the bosses should be suspended. You know, I'm not sitting here saying it was great and you know everything they did, it was fine. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that them going out there without radios led to a really bad situation where they stopped the wrong guy, and you know the situation could have came to a close a lot easier if they were able to openly communicate. Ambulance could have been there. Thankfully, the guy wasn't really injured as a result of his arrest. But yeah, I think the use of force was appropriate. There's a lot of things in there that happened after it, but it was a complete breakdown from not having the radios. So I'm not saying that discipline shouldn't be issued, but to sit there and tell me that they should be arrested, it's a stretch for me. It really is. And again, I think this is a failure on narcotics in the NYPD as a whole. And it's a failure, really an indictment of the NYPD leadership as a whole. They're just incompetent, man. And it's dangerous for the public and it's dangerous for the cops that are going out there. So if you guys want to keep going out there, running out, get those numbers, go right ahead, bro. We'll hopefully maybe try to save you on here, but I doubt it, because it's just the anti-police sentiment has not left New York City. All right, let's get to the coffee and donuts and then rush out of here. 2 hours, 52 minutes, Friday. Had about 700 people on here this morning. Thanks, everybody, for coming with us. Make sure, like, share, subscribe. And then thanks for those of you with the opposing opinions. I don't think, I'm not trying to say that your opinion doesn't matter or you're not entitled to one, but, I'm just going to give you.
I got one question, though, before we run out of here. I have no issue with him telling that lady shut the fuck up. She was annoying. He's in the middle. He's breaking his concentration. Is it a little unprofessional? Yeah. But I really, honestly, I have no issue. It should be a conversation. That's it. But I know the CCRB is going to go after him. I just want to know if you have an issue with him telling her shut the fuck up. She was annoying. Honestly.
I mean, do I think it's a big deal? No, I don't think it's a big deal. But just based upon the scenario and everything that happened, I mean, if you gave me the investigation to look at, I'm gonna find him guilty of
of course. No, I get it.
of using improper language. Do I know why he did it? Yeah. Have I done it? Yeah, absolutely. I think 99.9% of the people on here, even the people that think they wouldn't, if I put them in that same scenario, they would do it.
I know because I've done it. I've done it.
Your frontal lobe shuts down, dude. You don't really know what you're doing, and you're panicking, and your mouth starts running. I would have said a lot worse, honestly. So he said some stupid shit. Do I think it's a big deal? No. But do I think it needs correction? Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I'm gonna push back a little bit. I have no problem with him telling her to shut the fuck up. You know, I would have done worse. You know, because it's absurd. You're in the middle of trying to arrest this guy, and we have it. We're almost at parody levels. You know, this is something you see in, like, remember those old Leslie Nielsen Naked Gun movies?
Yeah.
It's like, are we gonna get to the point where cops are involved in a shooting and a civilian is screaming out there, "Oh, what's your name? What's your badge number?" I'm in the middle of a shooting hit. You know, I mean, it's absurd. In fact, I have no problem even if after the lady's still screaming at him and they don't do anything. Because listen, you have to look at the totality of the situation here. Okay, we don't have time to give out our information. We're trying to get this guy under control and in cuffs so the situation doesn't escalate even further, and either he tries to kill me or I have to deploy deadly physical force on him. It's just absurd that things have gotten to this level. Okay, and Lambro,
but you understand we've been there for our entire careers. Like, this is the rules that has been in place for us. I totally agree with you, dude. I don't think it's a big deal, but there's no way to get around it. If you're conducting the investigation, there's no way to get around it.
I know.
Like,
but that's my point. Like, what happened to? Why isn't there an expectation of common sense? Like, if that lady makes a complaint, they should be like, "Lady, common sense will tell you these guys are in the middle of a fight. They're making an arrest, and you're asking for a stupid question at the wrong time." Like, what happened to just common sense? Like, that's why I don't have any issue. I've done it too. I was extremely professional with people, but there are times when people ask dumb questions at the wrong time. You're like, seriously? Can you shut the fuck up? I'm trying to concentrate over here. I think that was a normal reaction. The guy's, he's got people outside. He's got a perpetrator on the ground. He's got his partner there. He doesn't have a radio. It's like, lady, she was annoying, you know?
She was so annoying, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
she was interfering. She was actually interfering with.
But
I totally agree with you guys. Look, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like, he's gonna get found guilty. Like, what we'd be lying to each other if we're gonna say that. No, he's gonna go to CCRB and they're not gonna find them guilty. They're 100% gonna find them guilty on the case.
Right. But
is it right? No. Is it ridiculous? Absolutely. But it is what it is.
But there should be a level of expectation of common sense with the Civilian Complaint Review Board or Internal Affairs should tell them, listen, honestly, lady, you're asking for the cops' information, but common sense would tell you there's a better time to ask. Your complaint goes out the window. Sorry.
I can't even not curse on here, bro. Like, I'm not even in a pressure situation. Like, you know what I mean? We're just sitting around bullshitting.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah. Well, you know, this is why it's incumbent on the job to push back and say CCRB wants to give them anything. No, we're not. You know, and those jellyfish in 1PP, unfortunately, aren't going to do anything, right? And they're gonna let them CCRB do whatever, and it's stupid. It's stupid. Okay. It's again, we're getting to those levels of pure absurdity and parody, and the job. This is why you guys in the unions, who we know you're watching today, you should find your balls and push back against these things, because as we see, it's getting worse. Okay, and if you don't keep pushing back, you're gonna have to. We're getting more and more cops getting charged for stupid stuff you're just going to make it completely impossible for a cop to do his job now. So quickly before we go to chat, this comment from Lambro, a modern samurai answered it perfectly. Okay, he says you can't teach somebody who spent a life of irresponsibility to be responsible. Okay, my whole point would being walking around inebriated in the middle of the day when normal people, right, we have jobs in the middle of the day. You have responsibilities that you got to do in the middle of the day, right? If you're spending your day walking around the street inebriated, you're undisciplined in your own life, okay? Okay? And you probably lack that responsibility in your own life, okay? And what did we see in this arrest? Would a person who's responsible and disciplined push back against police? Would he resist police? No, he's not. Because number one, he's not stupid. You don't resist a man who has a gun and who has the legal authority to send you to the hospital when you fight him, okay? You don't do it. And secondly, you have responsibilities that you're going to jeopardize if you have to spend the night in jail, okay? It's that, again, it's this sort of behavior is basically condoned by the public, by politicians and the media and the left, okay? This is why these neighborhoods are, again, shitholes, okay? All right? And nobody wants to live there, not even the people, the silent majority who live there, because as soon as they're successful, they're going to move out. So.
Very true. And just one last thing. Reverend McCall's the Timu Al Sharpton. He's like trying to compete with Hawk Newsom to be the next Al Sharpton. I personally like Hawk a little better. At least he throws some. He's straight out of Central Casting, Hawk, and he pretends like he cares. So I think I'll give him the front runner for the next Al Sharpton, the Timu. So yeah, I anything that McCall says, like.
Yeah, that's funny, John.
Whatever. Yeah, not taking it with anything.
Anyway, tell that lady shut the fuck up. Honestly, don't ask cops. Don't ask while they're in the middle of a fight. It's stupid. That's, by the way, just stupid.
All right, let's do it. All right, so first one, it's told to you so back when, says cops answer for everything from now on. When asked why didn't you should be, I didn't want to get modified, fired, or arrested. Oh, why asking why you didn't do something? Give them their police. So what he's saying is like, why go out there and rush if they're telling you they don't want it. The community's telling you they don't want buy and bust, but yet the police department's going, no, we're just going to continue to give you buy and bust. It's like, no, they don't want it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And by the way, if you're going to at least continue to do it competently. Give the guys fucking radios. Put them out there with a chance of success instead of putting them out there with incompetent leadership and putting Levon Holly in charge of them. Absolute joke. Think that didn't have an effect?
Holly's chest.
Yeah.
Where's Smith when you need him? Smith, where are you, brother?
Yeah. So Mon Samurai says, no disrespect, but fuck that. I have family and property in the city. I need the police to do their jobs. I don't care how bad it looks.
Exactly.
The police have a job and it needs to be done regardless how the public sees it. I hear what you're saying, dude, but you're also saying, well, you know what? You guys are going to get fired and go to jail and I don't really care. And, you got to just continue. This is the system you're in. This is the life you chose. You're probably going to go to jail for doing your job and get fired for doing your job. It is what it is. I'm not saying that we should be ruled by the mob. I don't, we live in a constitutional republic, but it is what it is, man. At some point, you got to be realistic. Are you going to go out there and risk your life, your freedom, and your pension and leave your wife and your kids without health benefits? I just don't think it's worth it, dude.
Yeah, spot on. Well said, brother. I agree. Mono Samurai, thank you so much for the coffee donuts. It hit us up a lot today. We appreciate it.
And he says, people want crime to magically disappear and have no idea what it takes to have that crime actually go away. The police aren't an easy target these days because people are already programmed to hate them and what they do. It's I'll give you a spot on because that's exactly what it is. Like I said, everybody wants police work. They just don't want to deal with the reality of it. It's nice when people don't resist arrest. When people resist arrest, it's unfriendly. We showed you the video with the bomber, the terrorist. You saw the chief running to stop the cop, not the terrorist. I mean, like, come on. And then we're lauding the chief as a hero. I mean, like, we're in such a soft society, dude. We're in such a soft society. Yeah. Like if you saw a dude like trying to like pick up a little kid, right? There's a guy outside your block right now, and he's trying to pick up a little kid. Hey, come here. Let me get you candy. Come here, little kid. And some other guy's walking his dog, rips the guy out of the car and beats the shit out of him. And I show you the video. Everyone's going to be like, oh, my God, did you see what he did? That guy's an animal. And I'm going to say that guy's a hero. But the reality of what it does to keep us safe in society is a lot different from what today's society thinks it is. It's not all this, this whole de-escalation, this whole Care Bears, where we're going to do the Care Bear stare and everybody's going to stand down and comply. It's just not reality. No one's showing us how to do it. Not Columbus, Ohio's dialogue unit, not the de-escalations training that the Adams administration was doing. Nobody's done it for us. We haven't seen it.
Yeah. You know, who's this idiot LA bro? Autism kicking in from all. And dude, you got a problem with autism? My nephew has autism. I had a lot of cops. Their kids had autism, and they were great kids. I don't even know what you're talking about. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I heard he's got 14% body fat too.
Yeah. And he must be out running with Joe. Him and Joe 14 are out running together right now, looking at each other's body fat.
His boyfriend must love it.
Yeah. No, his boyfriend's not gay. Just he is.
Yeah, he probably has low testosterone too, with all his emotional answers, his emotional statements about all of this.
Yeah, I hope LA Bro gives him a reach around.
Yeah. Yeah. He wants to get hoed out. He wants to take Sal's place.
I'm sure LA Bro's the cop that's going to stop in the middle. Hold on, man. My name is Officer So-and-so. Shut up. You guys don't even know the realities. You're in the middle of a fight. Shut up, lady. Are you serious? Come on.
It's told to you so back when. It says politicians only worry to appease the lowest common denominator. This is why people are leaving New York City and New York. The city is being run by a hipster crew, a transplant hipster crew too.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the other thing you got to remember. First of all, these kids did not grow up in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they didn't even live in New York City. So they came from like some bubble town, and they're telling the city how it should operate when they have no idea the inner workings of New York City. They have no idea what New York City was, you know, and that's why, you know, a lot of these younger black kids, they think that like, oh, it's only our neighborhoods that are violent. It's like, what? Talking about? What are you talking about? I was 8 years old. I saw someone shot dead. What do you like? How is it? It's not just in your community, dude. You know.
You know what's you know what's funny, John? I think you were saying the other day. Maybe it was maybe last week that they're saying that people are losing the accent in New York City.
Yeah.
There was something on social media the other day, and they were showing like people from the 80s answering questions. You know, that like the girls had like the crazy hair.
Yeah.
They all had the crazy New York accents, and I'm like, man, I miss it. You know. She was like, yeah, you know, this guy. And I was like, oh man, you're right. You don't hear that anymore. I was like, damn, you really did lose it.
Yeah, because the transplants took over. They took over the political structure, and they don't understand it. And you know, and that's what it is. You know, Mon Samurai, another $20. He says people are
Mon Samurai, thank you, brother.
Yeah, thanks, bro. He says people are brainwashed into believing that everything is corrupt and you have to fight the system. That includes police, the government, etc. So if you aren't fighting, then you're part of the problem. Tough show today.
Yeah.
So look, I think a lot of the stuff is corrupt, but I mean, when you look at it in reality, this is the reality of it. We have people committing violent crimes on the streets in New York City, and nothing is happening to them, and they're being released. If something happens and you're approached and you didn't do anything and you comply, believe me, even if you're arrested, you're going to be out shortly. I mean, it's not like, you know, people aren't just getting swept off the streets and beat up. Like, just don't resist arrest, dude. We should 100% have that campaign. That should be coming top down from the mayor's office. And it's not. And it's scary. And the other people that should be pushing it that don't are the unions as well. They don't push it either. There should be a whole stop resisting campaign.
Yeah, it really should be. Really should. It's gotten to the point where it like all these kids, especially these young kids now who've never grown up with active policing in inner cities, right? They now feel empowered to, you know, push back against police and resist, and it's dangerous because people are going to end up getting hurt by doing that.
I don't even know why they're pushing back. These kids are not even stopped today. John was telling me about how a kid, when he was a kid, he was getting stopped. Same thing with me, right? I grew up in the hood too. Was getting stopped out there. These kids today aren't getting stopped. The cops aren't out there jumping out on people doing intrusive police work. So what are they talking about? These kids, they're just jumping on the narrative. That's all it is.
Yeah, dude. It's like, you know, they have no idea. They're not living under the broken windows theory of policing. And I didn't even grow up in the hood. My neighborhood was like relatively safe. What you would say is relatively safe. But we were getting stopped every day, dude. Stopped, tossed for no reason. And the only reason I made it out of that is because I changed my demeanor when I started getting older and bigger. I was like, I got to change my demeanor. This isn't going to work out with me. I'm going to end up in jail or dead. And it's going to be one of these guys that kills me, and it's going to be over nothing. Me drinking in the park or some dumb shit. They stop me for no reason, and I flip out over it. And ultimately, am I ever winning that scenario on the street? You're never winning that scenario on the street. You're never winning. You don't, like, what? You want to be the hero? You want Hawk Newsom and Reverend McCall worried about you, grifting the same way the SBA is grifting off of Sergeant Duran? You want these guys grifting off of you, your dead body, and your family's not going to get half of it? Come on, be smart.
Yeah. Do you want to go to the hospital or do you want to go home?
That's it. You fight, you're going to get yourself hurt. That's the bottom line. You cause your own injury. That's the way I feel about it. You resist, you cause your own injury. You're stupid.
Yeah, it's 100%, dude. It's not tough. It's not tough fighting the police.
No, it's stupid. It's not.
It's dumb, dude. It's so dumb. Like, tough is being like, all right, yeah, let's see you. Now I'm going to file a complaint on you, and then I'll see you in court, and then you're going to answer for all the shit you just did, officer.
Speaking of tough, we got these yo-yos over here, which I think is pretty funny. I usually don't acknowledge it, but thank you for watching the show for 3 hours. Joe, 14% body fat in LA, bro, saying that we would be chihuahuas in person. Dude, you don't even show your picture. Show your picture with your 14% body fat. I want to see what that looks like.
Yeah, Chihuahua. You're right. I had a Chihuahua. It was a pretty nasty dog. You're right.
Oh, dude, first of all, if Joe or LA bro saw us in person, they would cower down. Bunch of wussies.
Yeah. Rather be a Chihuahua than a fucking running scared. Be a squirrel.
They didn't even show their picture. He says he got 14% body fat. We haven't even seen it yet.
Listen. Oh, guys, make LA. I just started my OnlyFans account if you want, bro. I'm doing shirtless ones, so if you guys want to register.
Honestly, that's
you guys are my perfect demographic. So if you guys want to sign up,
John, it's pretty strange when when you're a man and you know your body fat. I don't know, like what man knows their body fat percentage like that?
14%.
Yeah, I have 13.9.
My boyfriend put the calipers on me and he checked it.
I went no carbs today.
Yeah.
What a wuss, man. If you saw us in person, you wouldn't say a word. Get out of here.
Samurai says OCCB was responsible for almost 50% of department arrests. So you can understand that these chiefs want them to do B&B and target enforcement. DB took over OCCB, bounced to detective squad, catch patrol cases. So yeah, we already addressed that, and that just is more of what we were saying too. Is like they're always going to rely on that broken window style of policing, and there's nothing nittier, grittier than doing that buy and bust. That is, you're really dealing with the depths of hell in society, and but it's effective because wherever you put that buy and bust, what do you also see? Decreases in the other crimes, and that's why LePetri consistently leans on it. Oh, and everyone else did. Even Eric Adams, who demonized broken windows, leaned on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Go out there, do that buy and bust. Like, oh, now it's good because you're the mayor. Oh, wait, that's weird.
Well, I tell you what, we always say corruption is the default position for the city. Broken windows, intrusive policing, it's the default position for policing. No doubt about it. They can say they're anti this, anti that, but they go back to broken policing, broken windows.
Mon Samurai says, test taker bosses are the worst thing that ever happened to the job. Having supervisors with no arrest, no investigative experience should not be in any specialty unit. There's plenty of BS on patrol for them. So first of all, I'm not knocking patrol because I think here's the problem with patrol is not enough guys get experienced in it, and they're being moved to investigative positions or to like overseeing these real situations, including you have guys that are in those units, cops and detectives, that also don't have any basis foundation of policing, and they're being moved into these high-speed units where they're not ready for it. So I think everyone should have their time on patrol in every single rank. and before you go to any of these units. But today, with the diminishment of the department, you know, that's not happening. And that's a big, big problem, especially for the supervisors, because at the end of the day, you dictate the scenario, right? You know, again, if we were the supervisors, those guys never go out with radios. That never happens. It's just alleviated right off the bat. It's just alleviated right off the bat. But when you don't have strong bosses, when you don't have people who had to cut their teeth and work their way through things, they're not going to know how to handle that situation when they go to a detail and, you know, they got first grader detectives and say, this is how we do things, guy. It's like, well, that's not how you do things today. You know, I might be a 5-year wonder, but you're not doing it under me. I don't care. You know, if you don't like it, I'll get you transferred to the other team. You know, and that only comes through experience. It only comes through experience, dude. So, but yeah, the bosses in narco failed those guys. Not just that sergeant. I'm not just that sergeant. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace what happened. We read Dog already, where he said the TD-32 public safety chased a perp for theft of service onto the subway tracks, and the perp fell and hit his head. The whole team got bounced to patrol, and they each took a 10-day hit. Was it worth it? And basically what he's saying, and that's what you hear a lot of cops say. Well, I never got in trouble, and I just didn't do that shit. I didn't get involved in that. You know, and that's what's happening is we've changed the NYPD from being proactive to reactive because we're whipping the proactivity out of people, and some people are just stubborn. They like to get the lash, or they want to get thrown out. They don't care.
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
Saman Samurai, he also says, don't get me wrong, no arrest, whether right or wrong, looks good when the perpetrator fights, especially when you Monday morning quarterback it. But this complete disregard to department policies in regard to OCCB apprehensions, 100%. They should have been out there with their radios. He says nowhere in the OCCB training manual does it say not to carry a department-issued radio. Arrests look horrible, but not using a radio is where these guys went wrong. Bosses say don't wear your vest. Are you listening? Hell no.
Yeah. Yo, thank you for the coffee donut today, man. A lot of good statements, a lot of good input, a lot of engagement. We appreciate it, bro. I like this little girl, Joe, says, meet me in Manhattan. Dude, you won't even show you a picture. So meet you. I don't even know what you look like.
I know where he's going to be in the meat packing, right, Joe?
Yeah, he's going to be in the meat pack. Yeah, Joe, nobody's scared of you, okay? I'm not scared of your 14% body fat.
When I drank, I would go to a gay club because I get a lot of drinks, you know. I don't put out, though.
This guy, you're scared to put your picture on social media and you want me to meet you in Manhattan? I would meet you in person. Show me who you are. You wouldn't meet me.
Take it easy, Eric. He's got 14%. He's got 14% body fat, Eric. Take it easy.
Yeah, probably he knows hand-to-hand combat. Woo, okay.
Scared.
He probably gets red too. He gets mad. I want to see what happens when I get angry, right? Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what else?
What do they say?
The Smith says
they can fight.
I'm a lover, not a fighter, Joe. So all right. Subscribe OnlyFans. All right. John's feet pics. You know. The Smith 72 says comply and be okay. Don't comply and become a tragedy. Right. So that's true. That's definitely true. It's told to you so back when. Oh, we answered that one already. Mon Samurai again. He says perception and reality are two different things. I need the police to do their jobs. We all did. And I'm sure we have risked it for stupid collars. I know I did too many times to count. Stay alert. Stay safe. Great show today. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. And it's told to you back when, says John, forget shirtless. Feet is where it's at. That's where the money's at, bro. Joe,
Feet?
Sign up, dude.
What, foot fetish?
Yeah, Joe, sign up, bro.
I don't have nice feet.
I think I'm at like I'm probably body fat. What the hell would I even be at? I'm probably at like 30% body fat. I don't know.
I was saying, how do you even know your body fat at this point? Like, Joe, what kind of machine?
You literally have to go get calipered. And like,
Yeah.
you ever get that done? It's horrible.
Yeah, I did. Stupid.
It's
But apparently
horrible.
Joe has a machine at home.
hurts.
He knows his body fat percentage. Are you at 13.8 today? What did you hit? Today's a good day to have no carbs.
He's like, honey, I can't take you out to dinner because
I'm going to meet Eric in person, but I won't show my picture on social media.
I'm trying to.
Yo,
I'm
you
trying to
didn't get me before. You're not going to get me now, brother. What are you talking about?
I'm trying to look shredded tonight when I go out.
He says my gym measures it. You're a cornball. What a listen.
Yeah. Hey,
John, we should be terrified.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the perp in that incident, Acer? Because I think you are, and if you are, no, it wouldn't be me. Because again, I'm not stupid. Okay, when a cop tells me what to do, even when I was a cop and I get pulled over, right? The cop tells me what to do, I'm gonna fucking do it because the cop has the gun, right? And he has the legal authority to send you to the hospital. I don't want to go to the hospital. I want to go home. So I comply and I do as I'm told.
You know what? Where do we lose society, right? Even growing up as kids, we go to school, and in order to speak to the teacher, you have to raise your hand and wait your turn. And that's when she addresses you. But while cops are in the middle of a fight, the cops, by city council members who went to school, expect the cops to answer stupid questions while they're in the middle of a fight. Hold on. Ma'am, my name is so-and-so. It's absolutely ridiculous. If we went back to school, you wait till your turn, right? So you know what? People that are out there, wait your turn, wait till the cops are done, and then ask for their badge number. Don't ask while they're in the middle of a fight, please. So to the cop who told that lady, shut up, bro, you're definitely going to get a CCRB, but I have no problem with it. It was stupid. She shouldn't ask you that stupid question at a stupid time.
Yeah, ridiculous. Boyle Hatcher, he says, if you guys didn't get let go, you'd still be abusing people on the streets following orders. So like, here's the thing that people don't understand. And I think it's like, I don't understand how people don't grasp this. Like, if you work in Starbucks and you live down the block from Starbucks, you see all the customers that come into Starbucks every day. Are you going to treat the customers that come into Starbucks like garbage? No, you're not. Why? Because you live amongst these people. Why would you do that? Same thing for police. We policed areas that we lived and we grew up in and we knew people in. And like, what do you think? Like, it's ridiculous. I know we didn't abuse anybody, dude. Like, the police don't go out there and abuse people. I hate to break the news to you. The last thing the cop wants to do is put his hands on you or use any type of force, because there is accountability. There's a lot of accountability. There's more accountability than there should be. They're giving it an impossible task to do. You know, that's the thing, is like, most people think cops want to go out there and shoot people and beat people, and it's a lie, dude. It is a lie. There is too much accountability for it. Nobody wants to engage in that, and nobody thinks about that, and it's stupid, dude. So, but all right, look, it's Friday. Let's get out of here. What are we pulling up, dude?
Maul doesn't want to go home.
Yeah, sorry. Quick,
Maul, we don't have
right?
overtime slips, Maul. We're not getting paid. Let's go.
Quick comment, right? About Americans who think they can do whatever they want because you're so entitled, right? I think it's hilarious when Americans go overseas taking that same entitled behavior, and then they realize, oh shit, I'm not in America. People actually, you actually have to have a personal responsibility over here. And like this fool who's now doing 6 months in South Korea, So I just thought it would be I thought it was funny considering how much people are pushing for a lack of personal responsibility here. So that's it.
I told you so back when. Thank you so much for the coffee and donuts. Another one, $4.99. Says Joe knows this, Joe knows that, but Joe knows Jack because Joe can't rap. Hand to hand. Yeah, that's cool. You're right. Good song. Outstanding.
And Joe's not fat either. Yeah.
Joe knows hand to hand. You must know Wing Chun. Okay. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Anyway, Joe, we appreciate you, brother. Thanks for coming around. Hope everybody has a great weekend. This just happened in Staten Island this morning, right when we went live. 20-year-old woman shot in the neck, Staten Island Shopping Center, right outside of Target. You think that Staten Island not having the same amount of having less cops today than it did, almost 100 less cops today than it did in 1960, when the population of Staten Island hasn't doubled, hasn't caused all of this rise in crime. And your borough president, Vito Fossella, met with Jessica Tisch, got some lip service, and then posted about how I met with her. And she thought well of our concerns, and she's so great. And guess what? You guys didn't get one cop. So, all that relays. So, all right, everybody, have a great weekend. And guys, anything before we run out of here?
Joe Cop. Find some filter, baby.
Yeah. Have a great weekend, guys. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for the lively discussion, and be safe out there if you're on patrol. And stay alert. So see you next week.
Take care, Justice Jack.
Keep getting hold out, fellas. All right, ready? All right, that's it. Great weekend, everybody. Find us on Filter. We'll be back at you on Monday. Later.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?